결승 대젠지전 전승 총 12회 결승 진출, 그중 10회 우승. 하지만 10번의 우승에도 우린 아직 목이 마르다. 너희의 첫 우승보다 우린 우리의 V11을 더욱더 간절히 소망한다. 언제나 처음처럼 이게 우리다! T1! 여기 도저히 믿기 어려우시겠습니다만 LCK 무관의 선수들이 있습니다. 도란, 초비, 룰러, 그리고 리헨즈. 결승전 사골 멘트 나갑니다. 이번엔 정말 다르다. LCK 사상 최고의 득실 2라운드 전승! 이럴 때가 아니면 도대체 언젠니까? 이번이 적기다! 오늘 성불하자! 과연 T1이 V11의 새로운 역사를 써 내려갈 수 있을지, 아니면 젠지가 그토록 갈망하던 첫 번째 우승컵을 거머쥘 수 있을지. Let the finals begin! 우리은행과 함께하는 2022 LCK 서머 스플릿 대망의 결승전을 이곳 강릉 특설경기장을 바둑매원 팬 여러분의 뜨거운 환호 함성과 함께 시작하겠습니다.
스프링 때 아무래도 좀 전승 우승도 하고 그리고 결승전에서도 3대1로 승리했기 때문에 선수들도 굉장히 기뻐했고
다 고생했는데 또 제가 MVP를 받고 스포트라이트 마지막에 받으니까 고마움도 있었고 살짝은 미안함도 있었고 그냥 그래서 울었었던 것 같고
그날 플레이가 생각보다 잘 돼가지고 충분히 또 이길 수도 있었다고도 생각해서 3세트만 이겼으면 그런 점에서 좀 많이 아쉬웠습니다.
제 손으로 준우승을 만든 것 같아서 너무 아쉬웠는데 그 감정이 좀 오래 남은 것 같습니다. 지긋지긋하죠? T1에 올라올 걸 예상은 했지만 그래도 막상 실제 올라오니까 또 T1이다 이 생각은 드네요.
젠지에 있는 선수들이 다 많이 칼을 갈고 오실 것 같아서 선수들이 다 합쳐서 18번인데
원래 그냥 아픈 기억은 잊고 사는 거라 하잖아요. 18번 넘어가고부터는 그냥 안 세도 될 것 같아요.
T1한테 지다 보니까 어떻게 더 해야 잘할 수 있을까라는 고민을 또 많이 했었고
주변에서 뭐 적기다 이번엔 다르다 하는데 그 말을 듣는데 이번에도 결과를 못 내면 어떤 생각이 들지? 참, 뭐 결과를 내야겠네요.
사람들이 이제 별명으로 이런 거 신인 제우스다 이렇게 해서 많이 불러주시는데 또 엄청난 극찬이라고 생각을 해서 좀 만족스럽기도 하고
저도 동감합니다. 좀 신인이신데 경기에 대한 긴장감이나 그런 게 좀 전혀 없어 보이셨고 개인적으로 리스펙하고 있습니다.
감사합니다. 생각나는 거는 춤신 이런 거 생각이 납니다.
이번 연도 들어서 가장 기분 좋은 승리가 아니었나 생각이 되네요.
도란 선수 춤추는 것도 보면서 되게 쓰라린 감정을 느꼈었거든요. 다시는 느끼고 싶지 않아서 보고 싶지 않습니다. 아무튼
좀 힘겹게 올라오시는 것 같아서 예전 같지 않다 이런 생각.
네, 가끔 좀 흔들리실 때는 또 좀 휘청 있는 모습을 보여주셨기도 해서 잘 비벼봐야 될 것 같습니다.
제우스 나와!
불렀니?
제가 우승한 지 좀 오래돼가지고 빨리 다시 우승하고 싶고요. 어떤 기분일지도 좀 궁금하긴 해요. 오랜만에 다시 하는.
대단하신 것 같아요. 일단 8년 차시기도 하고 트렌드를 자기가 만들어가고 있고 여러모로 대단하다고 느끼고 있고
문호 선수 챔피언 폭이 넓지 않았다고 저는 생각하고 초반 설계랑 그리고 챔피언 폭은 제가 더 좋다고 생각합니다.
조금 많이 착각을 하신 것 같아가지고 뽀삐라는 챔피언은 진짜 되게 잘하시는 것 같은데 나머지 챔피언들 같은 경우엔 충분히 제가 다 이길만하다. 미리 미안합니다.
이번 썸머는 그래도 좀 이길 확률이 높다고 생각해서 꼭 우승해서 팬분들한테 우승이라는 선물 안겨드리고 싶습니다.
이번 결승전이 벌써 13번째 결승이라고 들었는데 많이 한 것 같아요.
많이 하셨구나. 저는 근데 뭐 남의 일이니까 13번에 결승 온 게 좀 놀랍기도 한데 근데 또 페이커 선수가 그랬다니까 잘하는 선수니까 그럴만하구나.
이번 썸머 시즌에도 맞상대를 하게 됐는데 매번 만날 때마다 그래도 좀 새로운 느낌이 있어가지고 저는 굉장히 재밌는 것 같고
다 진 걸로 알고 있습니다. 뭐 솔직히 주변에서는 상대 전적을 보면은 제가 다 졌으니까 뭐 그냥 단순하게 생각하겠죠. 근데 저 같은 경우에는 그 지는 와중에서 잘했나 그게 중요한데 저는 다은제에서 문제가 없다 생각하기 때문에 저 스스로 딱히 신경 쓰이지 않아서 문제 없습니다. 그냥 뭐 올프로 퍼스트 1등 했으니까 이 리그 성적도 1등을 마칠 수 있도록 해보겠습니다.
저는 이제 프로 입장에서 최선을 다하겠습니다.
많이 이기셨으니까 이제 한번 질 때 되신 것 같아요.
정시대 1등 하면서 득실도 이렇게 최고도 기록도 세워보고 자신감도 좀 더 많이 붙고 결승도 더 잘할 수 있겠다는 생각이 듭니다.
스프링 때보다는 확실히 좀 더 올라온 느낌이 있는데 그냥 약점은 아직 충분히 존재한다고 생각해가지고 자만 오만과 자만 없던 팀에도 생길 수 있는 부분이라고 생각합니다.
저는 이제 퍼스트도 받고 POD 1등도 받고 시즌 MVP도 이제 뭐 3관왕을 탔는데 구마유 선수는 여기까지 하겠습니다.
퍼스트도 받고 시즌 MVP도 받았는데 준우승 하시면 참 슬프실 것 같은데 제가 그렇게 만들어 드리도록 하겠습니다.
맹경 하면서 보고 있는데 이제 인터뷰가 거의 끝나가고
룰러 형 또 나야. 강릉에서 봐.
실시간으로 또 킹 받았고
룰러 형 우승 그렇게 어렵지는 않더라. 왜 못하는지는 잘 모르겠는데 편하게 해요. 편하게.
구마유 선수가 저를 되게 좋아하는 것 같아요. 근데 형은 너 별로 안 좋아하고 이번 결승은 우리가 우승할게.
일단 결승에 다시 와서 좋고요. 드디어 복수할 기회가 또 생긴 것도 좋습니다.
T1이 젠지랑 결승에서 만났을 때 진 적이 한 번도 없어가지고 저한테는 되게 좀 긍정적인 영향이 있을 것 같아요. 새친양이란 별명을 받은 게 제가 데뷔하기 전에 받은 거라서 제가 있었으면 아마 새친양도 제 게 아니었을까라고 생각합니다.
그 인터뷰를 한 2주, 3주 전에 봤거든요. 되게 맵게 인터뷰 하셨더라고요. 그걸 보면서 계속 저렇게 오만했으면 좋겠다. 세상에 괴물이 나 하나가 아니구나 라는 걸 느꼈으면 좋겠습니다.
제가 알고 있던 리엔즈 선수의 폼이 돌아왔다 생각해서 굉장히 재밌을 것 같습니다.
정말 MSI 준우승 하시고 입소하셨다고 들었는데 준우승 시켜드리고 시원하게 입수시켜드리겠습니다.
일단 젠지가 그런 불우승을 계속하는 징크스 같은 게 있다고 생각해서 지금까지 그래왔던 것처럼 이번 결승도 T1이 우승하도록 하겠습니다.
스프링 때도 우승했고 썸머도 우승하고 롤드컵 때도 되게 좋은 성적 거르면은 엄청 좋은 한 해로 마무리될 것 같아서
썸머 2라운드 우승팀이 지금까지 모든 썸머 우승했다고 들었는데
제가 몰랐었는데 저희가 우승할 것 같은데요.
전통에 따라가야겠네요. 역사적으로 내려온 전통이니까 따라야죠.
경기 시간이 이번에 2시라고 하더라고요. 저주가 하나 더 붙은 것 같고 아마 우승은 내년쯤에나 노려봐야 되지 않을까.
T1의 벽이 얼마나 높은지 보여드리도록 하겠습니다.
저희한테 온 기회 절대 놓치지 않고 이번에 꼭 저희 손으로 잡겠습니다.
이제 또 10번 우승을 했으니까 첫 번째 우승이라고 생각하고 이번 결승전 꼭 팬분들께 최고의 모습 보여드릴 수 있게 노력하겠습니다.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the LCK Summer 2022 Finals here in beautiful Konglung. I'm Atlas, I'm joined by Chronicler and Wolf here for the Finals TriCast. And man, that was actually trash talk. That video was actually a trash talk video, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Finally
it really
got one.
was. I don't know if anyone's going down to the beach after a loss tonight. We will see. It's getting a little bit chilly these days. But I think we're in for something special tonight. Whether or not Gen G wins that first title, these four players have been hungry for it so long, or if it ends in tragedy and their best chance that they've had, where they're, for the first time, really the favorites here, I think we're going to have a great night of League of Legends.
I still don't know what my favorite part of the trash talk video was, whether it was Ruler saying, oh yeah, what did Guma get done this split again, or Guma talking about how 2 p.m. bad sign for Gen G.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I think that was one of my all-time favorites. I like the fact that Lehens also wants to be a beast, just like Carrier. I like that we brought up all of the old interviews as well, but they have to leave it all on the Rift. It hasn't necessarily been something Gen G's been fantastic at. However, Summer Finals, they've just never been there before. The last time was Samsung Blue in 2014, where they went to the Summer Final and lost to KT in that amazing series. Let's get into our points of the match, though, and start this one off. Gen G, they did achieve first place, and it's often been that first place wins, and by often, it's every time.
And that is the big difference maker between this finals and any other Gen G T1 finals, any other Gen G T1 best of 5 that we've had over the LCK's history, really. This time, as the players themselves said as well, this has got to be the difference maker.
Yeah. Only twice has T1 and Faker lost finals, 2017 summer, 2021 summer. It's been a long time as we've seen this team look like the big underdogs in a finals like this. And talking about the meta here going into 12-14, we haven't moved on to a new patch here. Doran, who was considered the weak link for this team for a lot of the season, even despite their dominance, now gets to play two of his best champions in the Renekton and Aatrox here on 12-14, so not as much of a weak link as it was in the past.
In addition to that, Zeus had a rough ending to the split. I think in playoffs he looks a lot more like the Zeus that we've come to expect. He's been very vocal about not being happy with his own performance, but when it was a carry top meta, plays like this on the gangplank were what T1 relied on so many times. Right now, top lane, not really that relevant. You're looking much more like you're the one who sets up the rest of the team.
Yeah, you're much more about controlling early objective fights. It's not about the big boom damage. We're not seeing Gangplank anymore. He was nerfed significantly, but this is my favorite matchup here. Obviously, the bot side is where a lot of people are putting their focus, but for me, Poppy for Peanut, a pick he is so insane on. 15-1 on this champion, was banned against him every game against Live Sandbox, and despite being open every game in T1 semifinals, Owner didn't play it once. So a huge pick here that he has that Owner doesn't like to play in this finals, and I think it will really affect the draft.
And even if he does, Peanut himself championed De Morgana as a counter pick. He brought that out and is looked good every single time, and I agree with you. Owner and Zeus, to me, have been the reason why T1 is still in that second place, why they were able to make it so far, why they are in the finals again. But looking at the creative pathing that Peanut has found, Owner really needs to show his best level of gameplay today, because we know that the highlights of this player are incredible. There's a reason why he got that spring finals MVP after being the only one on his team not to make the All-Pro team.
Yeah, he's not a choker. He's a player who stays focused. Talking about mid, we've talked about this so much already. Chovy not being able to defeat Faker in any best of fives. Career-wise, Faker having a much better record here. But in recent form, Chovy has shown on the meta champions, which are also champions Faker is very proficient on, the Azir, the Ahri, he's looking much better. Here's his records across the multiple finals he's been on. To 6-time, maybe 6-time is the charm.
Gotta hope that that's going to be enough. In terms of stats, in terms of overall performance, the player has been incredible, had a perfect record on the Ahri until it was dethroned by Liv Sandbox, of all people, in the semi-finals. And would expect that champion to not be available for him today. I don't think you want to take that gamble, because the amount of agency that it provides him, when you just hit all skill shots, Ahri isn't balanced. And if there's something that Chovy can do, it's that.
Exactly. Love to see this guy on the champion, and I think it's something that needs to be looked at here in draft. Even on blue side, I think Genji could potentially first pick it if it's left open. Now, Faker on the other side, his DPM, he hasn't played as much damage champions as Chovy has. He's played a lot more utility. His Sylas, we saw him pick up towards the end of the season. He didn't adopt it as early. And we're seeing Chovy play champions like the Lissandra, the Galio, more engaged style, setting up for his team instead of being the carry like Chovy is. So a huge difference in play style between these two.
And then moving on to the bot lane, this is where the biggest gap should be based on the performance of these two teams. Ruler has had an words barely can describe how good this man has played this split. He has topped every chart. He got the triple crown, as he mentioned himself, tied in first for POC points, able to win the spring MVP, or the summer MVP rather, and overall just a dominant performance. And yes, there was Yuumi and Zeri involved in some of those wins, but you also can't give him Lucian. You can't give him Kalista. Level of power of this player is insane.
On this patch in particular, where Yuumi is so strong and it's also Lehen's best champion, it's such a problem for T1 in terms of draft, especially when Genji have blue side. They will not for game one, but in any loss, they will take it right back. And that's a huge problem in terms of where the priority is going to be looking here. In terms of damage here in the laning, Guma has looked a little bit weaker, and that's sometimes a problem too when you consider that Chovy is also doing more damage than Faker is. So T1 are going to have to be extremely coordinated. It's going to be, I think, a lot in this series about how Owner performs here on those carry jungles if he gets his hands on them.
And then Lehens, it is the perfect meta for him. There's multiple enchanters that are completely viable. That's where he thrives, and he is also the only LCK support into which you cannot pick Yuumi. We've seen Singe bans happen. Like the fact that you need to expand a ban, which against Genji is already really tough, is so rough, and Keria has just not looked like the same player that we saw in spring, where he was miles ahead of everyone else in the league.
Yeah, notice the champs we see putting up here. Keria has the largest support champion pool out of any support in the LCK, but the ones he's finding the most success are on hard carry, hard engage supports, not the utility that Lehens has been showing, not the enchanter supports that are so extremely strong right now in the bottom 2v2s.
I think the main points that you guys had were about the draft, right? There are so many things that has joined a list of stuff that T1 has to ban up against Genji. So we'll see what they're going to be able to get here. I believe it's time to reveal some predictions. I'm predicting some gold on the bottom side when it comes to our predictions and the LCK staff predictions, but I have a feeling if you're a T1 fan, don't worry, there are a lot of other fans with you that will be coming through on Twitter, because as you can see, a lot of 3-1s, a lot of 3-2s here as well on this side. Is Jonah Strong with the 3-0, and the Jonah Strong, I was partially just expecting him to say T1 3-0, because he's just being the odd one out.
That's how you know. If Jonah Strong doesn't go for the 3-0 for T1, that means it's really clear who the favorite is in tonight's matchup.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in terms of 3-1s, a lot of people expect this finals to be the opposite of what we saw in the spring finals. Of course, with T1 taking that one, dropping only a single game. This time around, our predictions, besides Atlas, of course, mostly leaning in that 3-1 department. Cubby also going for the 3-0. T1 having that blue side advantage going into the first game, though, we didn't know that was necessarily going to be the case, and I think that does make this series feel a little bit more competitive. They won the coin toss. They are going to have blue side, so anything could happen tonight. I think we are in for a great series.
Yeah, I was a little bit perplexed about whether I'd want to actually change, but I predicted a 3-0, so it's going to be the majority of red side for Gen G if they're going to win that way anyway. So if I was to change my prediction, then I would just be a little bit of a silly Billy, to be perfectly honest, gentlemen, because I think that Gen G deserve that prediction. Whether I actually believe it's going to happen tonight is a completely different story, because this is T1 in best of fives, but I think with the dominant performance that Gen G have had, I felt disingenuous not giving them the most one-sided score possible, just with how these teams have evolved away from one another since those spring finals that T1 were able to take.
I agree. It's not the same teams. T1 don't look like they did in spring. Going into especially the second round and playoffs in spring, Keria and Guma were the lane to beat. You can argue that, like, if you look at the All-Pros as well, they were not that high up. Like, Keria made it, but Guma not getting a lot of votes. You know, people like Prince, people like Aiming, getting ahead of him. And in the current meta where bot lane is this important, it's tough.
It absolutely is. I believe we are getting extraordinarily close, gentlemen, to picks and bans. As you can see, the players have come out into the middle of the stadium. This is actually one of my favorite parts about this Kunlun Stadium. And I'm very, very excited to get into pick and ban here, because that is where so many of the question marks have started coming up for so many people. And part of the reason why I think a lot of us expect Gen G to be able to take this is because of the fact that drafting against this team with their bottom lane that's so confident and so scary, it's just so difficult to do.
The level of play of T1 and Gen G might be closer than expectations, but I gotta agree with you. When it comes to draft, Gen G have been innovative. They've been able to get really good meta reads patch after patch, and I expect that to continue here today in finals.
Now, I think on the other hand, what's been really special and unique about T1, and part of the reason why they made it all the way to this finals, is that they like to play with us.
Final ever. It is actually just crazy. This team was always good at that, and then become a world champion immediately afterwards. The buff for this team doesn't offer
in terms of who showed up here tonight. And yeah, T1 have Faker, they have the talking about before, these styles of plays, Santa lanes they've shown us. Standard could come.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다.
짧지만 단단한 분석에서 짧지만을 담당하고 있고 저는 단단한을 담당하고 있습니다. pitbull 하원석입니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 꽉벤저스의 6연맨을 맡고 있는 강피 강승현입니다. 반갑습니다.
오늘 또 한 번 이렇게 레전드님들을 모셨습니다. 젠지의 레전드 앰비션님 나와주셨습니다.
안녕하세요. 서버에도 왔습니다. 젠지 앰비션입니다.
네, 반갑습니다. 자, 그리고 T1의 레전드 울프님 나와주셨습니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 방구석 전문가 T1 스트리머 울프 이재환입니다.
아, 반갑습니다. 정말 이 재방송을 보는 듯이 두 분이 또 나와주셨는데
지겹다는 건가요?
The night beckons while you dream. A life never lives in peace. As you stand upon the edge.
스프링 때 아무래도 좀 전승 우승도 하고 그리고 결승전에서도 힘들로 승리했기 때문에 선수들도 굉장히 기뻐했고 다 고생했는데 또 제가 MVP를 받고 스포트라이트를 마지막에 받으니까 고마움도 있었고 살짝은 미안함도 있었고 그냥 그래서 울었었던 것 같고
그날 플레이가 생각보다 잘 돼가지고 충분히 또 이길 수도 있었다고도 생각해서 3세트만 이겼으면 그런 점에서 좀 많이 아쉬웠습니다.
제 손으로 준우승을 만든 것 같아서 너무 아쉬웠는데 그 감정이 좀 오래 남은 것 같습니다. 지긋지긋하죠. T1에 올라올 걸 예상은 했지만 그래도 막상 실제 올라오니까 또 T1이다 이 생각은 드네요.
젠지에 있는 선수들이 다 많이 칼을 갈고 오실 것 같아서 선수들이 다 합쳐서 18번인데
원래 그냥 아픈 기억은 잊고 사는 거라 하잖아요. 18번 넘어가고부터는 그냥 안 세도 될 것 같아요.
T1한테 지다 보니까 어떻게 더 해야 잘할 수 있을까라는 고민을 또 많이 했었고
주변에서 뭐 적기다 이번엔 다르다 하는데 그 말을 듣는데 이번에도 결과를 못 내면 어떤 생각이 들지 참 뭐 결과를 내야겠네요.
사람들이 이제 별명으로 신인 제우스다 이렇게 해서 많이 불러주시는데 엄청난 극찬이라고 생각을 해서 좀 만족스럽기도 하고
저도 동감합니다. 좀 신인이신데 경기에 대한 긴장감이나 그런 게 좀 전혀 없어 보이셨고 개인적으로 리스펙하고 있습니다.
감사합니다. 생각나는 거는 춤신 이런 거 생각이 납니다.
이번 연도 들어서 가장 기분 좋은 승리가 아니었나 생각이 되네요.
다른 선수 춤추는 것도 보면서 되게 쓰라린 감정을 느꼈었거든요. 다시는 느끼고 싶지 않아서 보고 싶지 않습니다. 아무튼
좀 힘겹게 올라오시는 것 같아서 예전 같지 않다 이런 생각.
네, 가끔 좀 흔들리실 때는 또 좀 휘청 있는 모습을 보여주셨기도 해서 잘 비벼봐야 될 것 같습니다.
제우스 나와!
불렀니?
제가 우승한 지 좀 오래돼가지고 빨리 다시 우승하고 싶고요. 어떤 기분일지도 좀 궁금하긴 해요. 오랜만에 다시 하는.
대단하신 것 같아요. 일단 8년 차시기도 하고 트렌드를 자기가 만들어가고 있고 여러모로 대단하다고 느끼고 있고
문호 선수 챔피언 폭이 넓지 않았다고 저는 생각하고 초반 설계랑 그리고 챔피언 폭은 제가 더 좋다고 생각합니다.
조금 많이 착각을 하신 것 같아가지고 뽀삐라는 챔피언은 진짜 되게 잘하시는 것 같은데 나머지 챔피언들 같은 경우엔 충분히 제가 다 이길만하다 미리 미안합니다.
이번 썸머는 그래도 좀 이길 확률이 높다고 생각해서 꼭 우승해서 팬분들한테 우승이라는 선물 안겨드리고 싶습니다.
이번 결승전이 벌써 13번째 결승이라고 들었는데 많이 한 것 같아요.
많이 하셨구나. 저는 근데 뭐 남의 일이니까 13번에 결승 온 게 좀 놀랍기도 한데 근데 또 페이커 선수가 그랬다니까 잘하는 선수니까 그럴만하구나.
이번 썸머 시즌에도 맞상대를 하게 됐는데 매번 만날 때마다 그래도 좀 새로운 느낌이 있어가지고 저는 굉장히 재밌는 것 같고
다 진 걸로 알고 있습니다. 뭐 솔직히 주변에서는 상대 전적을 보면은 제가 다 졌으니까 뭐 그냥 단순하게 생각하겠죠. 근데 저 같은 경우에는 그 지는 와중에서 잘했나 그게 중요한데 저는 다은제에서 문제가 없다 생각하기 때문에 저 스스로 딱히 신경 쓰이지 않아서 문제 없습니다. 그냥 뭐 올프로 퍼스트 1등 했으니까 이 리그 성적도 1등을 마칠 수 있도록 해보겠습니다.
저는 이제 프로 입장에서 최선을 다하겠습니다.
많이 이기셨으니까 이제 한번 질 때 되신 것 같아요.
정시대 1등 하면서 뭐 득실도 이렇게 최고도 기록도 세워보고 자신감도 좀 더 많이 붙고 결승도 더 잘할 수 있겠다는 생각이 듭니다.
스프링 때보다는 확실히 좀 더 올라온 느낌이 있는데 그냥 약점은 아직 충분히 존재한다고 생각해가지고 자만 오만과 자만 없던 팀에도 생길 수 있는 부분이라고 생각합니다.
저는 이제 퍼스트도 받고 이제 POD 1등도 받고 시즌 MVP도 이제 뭐 3관왕을 탔는데 구마시 선수는 여기까지 하겠습니다.
퍼스트도 받고 시즌 MVP도 받았는데 준우승 하시면 참 슬프실 것 같은데 제가 그렇게 만들어 드리도록 하겠습니다.
랭킹을 하면서 보고 있는데 이제 인터뷰가 거의 끝나가고
룰러 형 또 나야. 강릉에서 봐.
실시간으로 좀 킹받았고
룰러 형 우승 그렇게 어렵지는 않더라. 왜 못하는지는 잘 모르겠는데 편하게 해요. 편하게.
구마시 선수가 저를 되게 좋아하는 것 같아요. 근데 형은 너 별로 안 좋아하고 이번 결승은 우리가 우승할게.
일단 결승에 다시 와서 좋고요. 드디어 복수할 기회가 또 생긴 것도 좋습니다.
T1이 젠지랑 결승에서 만났을 때 진 적이 한 번도 없어가지고 저한테는 되게 좀 긍정적인 영향이 있을 것 같아요. 새친양이란 별명을 받은 게 제가 데뷔하기 전에 받은 거라서 제가 있었으면 아마 새친양도 제 게 아니었을까라고 생각합니다.
그 인터뷰를 한 2주, 3주 전에 봤거든요. 되게 맵게 인터뷰 하셨더라고요. 그걸 보면서 계속 저렇게 오만했으면 좋겠다. 세상에 괴물이 나 하나가 아니구나 라는 걸 느꼈으면 좋겠습니다.
제가 알고 있던 리엔지 선수의 폼이 돌아왔다 생각해서 굉장히 재밌을 것 같습니다.
동아 MSI 준우승 하시고 입소하셨다고 들었는데 준우승 시켜드리고 시원하게 입소시켜드리겠습니다.
일단 젠지가 그런 준우승을 계속하는 징크스 같은 게 있다고 생각해서 지금까지 그래왔던 것처럼 이번 결승도 T1이 우승하도록 하겠습니다.
스프링 때도 우승했고 서머도 우승하고 롤드컵 때도 되게 좋은 성적 거르면은 엄청 좋은 한 해로 마무리될 것 같아서
썸머 2라운드 우승팀이 지금까지 모든 썸머 우승했다고 들었는데
저 몰랐었는데 저희가 우승할 것 같은데요.
전통에 따라가야겠네요. 역사적으로 내려온 전통이니까 따라야죠.
경기 시간이 이번에 2시라고 하더라고요. 저주가 하나 더 붙은 것 같고 아마 우승은 내년쯤에나 노려봐야 되지 않을까.
T1의 벽이 얼마나 높은지 보여드리도록 하겠습니다.
저희한테 온 기회 절대 놓치지 않고 이번에 꼭 저희 손으로 잡겠습니다.
이제 또 10번 우승을 했으니까 첫 번째 우승이라고 생각하고 이번 결승전 꼭 팬분들께 최고의 모습 보여드릴 수 있게 노력하겠습니다.
Now, let's move on to what we think about the final. Final is going to be occurring in about a week's time from us, but probably just in a few days for you guys at home. So, I think it's not going to be close. Based on what we saw between Genji and T1, I think if T1 had have taken that third game and it was decisive, maybe I'd be like, ooh, 3-1. But instead, I'm like 3-0. I don't think it's going to be close, personally.
I'd say 3-1. I think they get one draft that works out. We have seen that teams are willing to take risks in draft. Like every besides some of our salty runbacks, I think we have really seen that as the series kind of progressed, teams are adapting. I think that even if Dom1 go up 2-0, like I can see T1 getting a nice angle, able to find a win. But overall, it's a bot side meta, and the bot half of the map is not even remotely close. And as good as Zeus is, I don't think it matters nearly as much as how good Ruler is playing. So I think it's really tough to win when Guma had, I think, one actually good game, and besides that, to me, it felt like it was Owner and Zeus again kind of carrying.
Zeus had a huge return to form. So
yeah, it was just.
I'd agree.
He forgot his week 7 and 8 ways and went back to normal Zeus.
I thought Faker looked pretty good too. Like he wasn't necessarily the hard carry of every game, but there were some really good moments from him as well. Like the Silas engage onto the Draven in game 2, where it was just like, oh, you just don't get to play the game now. And then Zeus follows up. He's like, hell yeah, brother, let's do it. Let's just dive the Draven over and over. And he kind of like led the team in that manner with his own play, but also probably calling for plays onto Duck Down multiple times. I feel like I can't vote for 3-0 just because the entirety of this playoffs has been so close and back and forth. And I feel like since we're going to be on the same patch and risks are being taken in draft, as you were talking about, like all these teams have angles. Doesn't matter if you're DRX against Live Sandbox, who might be number 2. It doesn't matter if you're Dom1 against an incredible T1. It doesn't matter if you're Live Sandbox against maybe the best team right now in Gen G. Everybody's taking like at least one game. They're finding some angle, whether maybe Gen G one time will be like, you know, let's let through the Zerayumi because we have Ruler playing Twitch Lulu, and that's going to win. Like, and then they just get a win, and we're just like left baffled for why that was left up, and hopefully we don't see it again.
I don't think Gen G ever care about what T1 plays in the bottom lane at all. I don't think they ever ban anything. I just think they just assume
Well,
they'll
the
win.
thing is, if they're on red side, I think they will ban Yuumi because I think, especially within their team, they understand how strong the pick is because Lehens is such a god on it, and he's proven it many times. And
But they have Singed.
I think they just banned Callista, and that is the one thing they.
I think T1 will do that for them.
Obviously, it depends on who's on whoever team is on red side will ban Callista, and I think that's like the one thing we know for sure. And I also think that I would also predict 3-1 because I don't think a 3-0 is going to happen.
3-1, by the way. I didn't say a number, but 3-1 seems.
3-1 seems like the proper call because I don't think Gen G is so much better than T1 that they could win 3-0. I see a world also where if T1 gets some momentum, they're the fan favorites. Most of the fans in Kanglan will be cheering against Gen G, even though they're the favorites. Not that like affects the gameplay necessarily, but I think it does affect your mentality, especially if, you know, it's say like Gen G's up 2-0 and T1 win a game and then have a better draft in game 4 and then the reverse sweep is happening. Like I could see Ruler, you know, he dies in the Ruler spot, he chokes and he's like, oh my god, I'm not going to win the title. It's actually not going to happen. Like I could see like some world where T1 gets this huge momentum swing in the series because they have Faker at the helm and a lot of veterans on Gen G as well, but perhaps more emotional because of what it means for them, whereas T1's like business as usual, you know, I'm here for my 11th. So
Well, for one of them.
For one of them, but like for the org, right? And for most of them, it's for looking for, or for all of them, it's also looking for back-to-back. And I think that in terms of the meta, like Ruler definitely the stronger of the 280 carries. Like that's indisputable. In the mid lane, definitely Chovy's the stronger. In the top lane, I think Zeus had a return to form, and I think he is the stronger player, but I think it is a little bit closer because Doran is much stronger on Renekton than he is on tanks. I think he's much stronger on Aatrox, which is a pick he's played so much throughout his career. So I think the top matchup, while I do favor Zeus, like it's not as bad for Doran as normal, I would say. And I think they will win one game, but I think all of the games will be exciting and close. I don't think we'll have any Doran Akshan top games. I think all of the games. I think all of the games will be good, and I think they'll all be close. I think that's my bold prediction.
He picks it, and then he can Avengerang his way back into the good books.
Did you hear what happened?
They renamed his queue?
No, I think it was
Oh,
369
damn, that sucks.
who streamed about this. Who was like, "Yeah, actually, Doran played it against me in scrims in spring." And then he completely boomed me, like early in the lane. So you should thank me, T1, because I'm the reason that he picked it, which I thought was very, very funny.
Classic.
Wolf's point about the momentum thing, actually, like it feels like somewhat of a caster meme sometimes, where people are like, "Oh, he's gaining the momentum. Like G&G have the 2-0. There's no way they can lose a game 3." That's obviously not true. But when it comes to like Gen G, this entire split, they have been like the gods. They're on top. They defeated T1 in all these high pressure situations. But like, how will they handle even one game loss? I think is very curious thing to think about, because if it happens, maybe it's one of those like double prediction things where it's like, if Gen G are going to win, it's going to be a 3-0. But if they lose, it's going to be a 3-2 to T1 because they're going to get 2-0 and then they're going to get reverse sweeped, and all of a sudden, like, they're going to see their world falling between their fingers because they haven't really lost at all. They have the highest game win score. They've only lost, what, 4 games?
Yeah, I mean, it is the highest
30,
on record.
So 6 games.
6 games,
right?
yeah.
6 games. So like maybe in that moment it's like, oh crap, we're losing hold. You know, maybe this is where they feel the most pressure they ever have before.
There's a moment where, like, you know, since T1 will be the massive fan favorites, like, let's be real. Let's be realistic here. Like, we might even be looking at like a 75-80, you know, to 20 split of T1 fans to Gen G fans. Even though Gen G is a very popular team, like, that's just how it is. And like, you lose that one of those games, and the T1 players are hyped, and they're like punching the ceiling, jumping up, taking their headsets off, and walking out, and they walk out on the stage, and the Gen G fans or the Gen G players are taking their sound blocking headsets off, and like they hear the fans screaming, and they look up and see outside the booth, like the T1 players just walking backstage to go to the coaching booth. Those are the moments where like the fans get in your head, right? And you're like, oh man, everybody wants me to lose. Like, everyone wants this team that I'm facing right across from me to win. And I think, you know, what happened at MSI was very unique and weird because like T1 had the crowd there, but the enemy team like wasn't there. Like, it was online. I think this is a different world where T1 actually get like all of the buff because the crowd is for them and against Gen G. And I don't think it's going to make them win the series, but if it gets into Gen G's head, it could be a factor.
I think they've got too much experience to let it, though, right? Because every single one of the Gen G players has been that for their whole career against T1.
They have a lot of experience in getting second place.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They have a lot of experience like losing under the pressure.
Yeah. But I mean, that adds to the hunger, right? As well. So like, you could imagine that Ruler has never needed a final victory more than right now.
I don't think anything's gonna matter. As has been time in the past, there is a point where I think a team reaches supreme confidence to a
critical
point.
mass.
Yeah, they reach critical
I was
mass.
thinking
Where
critical
it's-
mass
Yeah,
as well.
where you start to get to where we talk about inevitability. Damwon was, of course, the most recent example of this, where like no matter what happens, with how dominant their split has been, with how much better they've been across such a long period of time, I think that Gen G truly, like, it's. What's the best way to put this? I don't think Gen G ever gets tilted because I think they're like, we're going to win no matter what. It doesn't matter. Like, it's set in stone. Fate has been sealed. And
yeah, he's not even in the World's Gauntlet.
Yeah, well, even
seal.
with the amount of you know, like Choki and all the other memes, Chovy getting what 5 second places, I think, from the top of my head.
I mean, Chovy in the Live Sandbox series wasn't even very good. It didn't matter.
He lost his first RE game.
Yeah, but like he also had a pretty forgettable series.
Yeah.
Closer, I think, was the best mid lane of the series, but it didn't matter.
But yeah, I don't think any of it matters. I think Gen G have earned our confidence, and no amount of like curses is going to make me doubt that they will be very clearly the stronger team, and they'll be the heavy favorite from the LCK as we go into Worlds. Because if you look at the run, like historically, right, like whenever a team has been this dominant, they win.
Well, this is the really cool thing. This is what I want to talk about with you guys. So now we've got T1 that made it to plus 29, tying the record in spring. Every time a team prior to T1 getting it, they've won Worlds. It was Damwon in 2020, and it was SKT in 2015. But now we have Gen G that have now broken the record at plus 30, where you can't have 2 teams that can both be the world champions. Does this mean that it's T1 versus Gen G in the world final? Like, does it have to be like a rematch of 2017? Like,
No, it'll be in the semis, and that will be called the true final until we lose to LPL in the final.
No.
Brandon already knows.
It needs to be 2018.
I've seen this script way too many times, guys.
No, it needs to be 2018.
Nope.
It needs to be the quarters, like KT versus IG.
Yeah.
And then all our, like, Live Sandbox do the Live Sandbox thing, completely bomb out of groups and in last place. Damwon gets beaten in the quarters by G2. and Gen G ends up losing to the eventual winner of
Gen
the
G
whole
gets
tournament.
like 3-0'd by JDG, and like in the round before, Live Sandbox took them to 5 games, and we're like thinking, is Live Sandbox the best Korean team that we have? Oh my god! I don't know why I chose JDG. Are they even doing well at the
No,
moment?
it's like Top and JDG are, I think, the front runners.
All right, great.
I think they might win the whole thing. Anyway, that's another regions podcast to have.
Yeah. If you
not
guys want us
Worlds,
to be
I
on
mean
the
LPL. We'll
LPL,
see what
I
happens.
see. Yeah.
But I think it'll be a really cool finals. I don't think there will be a 3-0. I think we'll have close games, as Wolf was saying, because I think these two teams are evenly matched. But I believe in Gen.G being just too clutch and believing too much. I don't know if you can beat that.
I also think for this roster, if they don't do it, they won't ever do it. I think this is like, if you can't do it this time, like if this 5-man team can't do it this time, they will never do it. I mean, maybe, I'm not saying like Ruler's never going to get a title, but like might have to do it on a different team. I mean, he's getting older. He's been around for so long. Like if Chovy can't get a title this time, I'm like, are you ever going to get one? Like this is the best chance these players have ever had going into a finals, in my opinion. And I hope they don't choke. I hope they don't toss it away, but like, I don't know if you can come back from having like this much of a dominant lead, being this much the favorites after being in so many finals as Chovy before as well. Like, if you can't do it this time, like, I don't know. I don't know if they ever do it.
Yeah.
Also, T1 has been the underdog in the past and won anyway, so it's like the T1 finals buff. It's just like a thing in the LCK. I don't know. Like this time, it feels like it's impossible, just like, you know, with Damwon in past finals, but I don't know. Maybe this is the time that T1 randomly like step up their game and Zeus becomes like the next legend of the LCK.
We might actually see Gumayusi Carrier actually step up, right? Like throughout this whole, the reason I'm saying it's a 3-0 for Gen.G is because I don't think Gumayusi Carrier have played well enough. They haven't shown us that they can be anywhere near good enough. Outside of round 1 of Summer, but they haven't looked like round 1 of Summer for a long time. Even in their most recent series, they were just never up to that. And I think that if your bottom lane is that far behind Ruler and Lehens, you never win against Gen.G.
We also haven't really talked about Gen.G's meta reads yet, but I like theirs the most together with Sandbox. I think the upper half of our teams had a way better read on how to play out the game right now, which picks to prioritize. I think T1 is pretty far behind in that regard as well.
You didn't like Frozen Heart Hullbreaker Camille?
Well, the Frozen Heart I think was nice. The Hullbreaker not so much. But it's not just the items, right? It's also what they prioritize in drafts, how they play around, what their opponents are doing. I think that Gen.G overall has a really good understanding of what it takes to win on this current patch. And T1 are still playing through topside, which worked today, but I don't think it will work against Gen.G.
Maybe they feel like they have to.
Well, they do.
Yeah,
they don't have a choice. I'm not saying it's a bad choice, but like, as the meta stands right now in the LCK, that shouldn't really work.
Yeah. Any thoughts?
Pretty much agree.
Yeah, I think I've kind of given all my thoughts on this one. Like, I don't have much else to add. And I think sometimes we've gone into these finals with like an hour-long discussion of how it's going to be. And I think the fact that this one is pretty succinct says it all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I agree with you guys. Although I feel like I'm like the most sure out of everyone. So I hope that it's actually a little bit more in line with your guys' thoughts.
I think it's
a bit bleak thinking that it's just going to be a 3-0 because they're never the most fun.
I think it's a good point you made, though. Like, a lot of the way that Gen.G wins is certainly through the bottom lane, and that doesn't have to be the only way that they win either, so they have a lot of different strengths as well. And I have liked their meta read the most. But it is a final. It is a best of 5, so...
and it's T1.
It's crazy that also like the best AD carry matchup that we might have had was Prince against Ruler, even though Gumayusi was obviously through spring and up until the beginning of summer like touted as at least top 2. Now it's like we'll have to see if he reaches that form
It wasn't
again.
top 5.
Yeah.
In All Pro.
Yeah, I mean that kind of says a lot,
Yeah, I think I had Teddy above him.
Yeah, or Deft.
I just want Ruler as somebody like if it's a massive T1 crowd, like they win and it's like pretty quiet, library crowd just to come out like
he would,
I want to see something like that. I want to see some ceremonies. Doran says he's singing if he wins.
I
think
imagine.
I
don't
know if
he
should. I think there will be a lot of Gen.G fans.
Imagine thinking that Lehens' shouting will not be enough to fill the whole arena. Give that man a mic.
True.
So, let's bring this conversation towards Worlds.
Sorry.
Now, we have the Worlds Gauntlet locked in. It's set in stone because both T1 and Gen G are going to Worlds. Congratulations on first and second seed. Makes this episode extraordinarily easy.
Do we know who's first
Brilliant.
and second seed, better?
No. Yes, whoever wins next week is first,
first seed,
and then second seed is the one who doesn't win.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they'll have the most championship points. I don't know why I went full Looney Tunes. That was very strange. Anyway, we've got Gen G T1 for the OGs, right? Because it's got Faker, it's got Ruler, right? They were in the bloody 2017 final together 5 years ago. That's absolutely crazy. Chovy's there as well. We get to teach everyone about looking for CS, which is absolutely brilliant. But then it is and Peanut's back as well, and he's bloody adorable.
I do think that it really will just depend on the form of the players that day.
Like whichever team we send will not have an issue in play-ins at all. But it's after that where we're like once we get to groups where I can see a team like Sandbox or KT really make a big splash and kind of surprise. That one kind of goes without saying with the experience they have. But I can also see them just get completely.
I think it doesn't matter because, like, no matter what happens, we have to win Worlds before anyone actually thinks we're a good region. So we don't need to get every team out of groups. I don't care about that anymore.
It's also, we have no idea
Nobody
what the...
cares about that anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Doesn't
it's
matter.
not a thing.
Yeah.
No.
Getting 3 teams to semi is not relevant.
Did you win MSI? No,
4.
you suck.
Yeah.
Lost game 5? Loser! Lost game 5. That's what I'm saying.
Go play Fortnite.
More L's than W's on that column.
I think it's fun to give our closing thoughts on specifically because we don't have no clue what the meta is going to be at Worlds, and we've seen this before where a team qualifies in one meta, and that is one thing where I think the LCK this year, no matter who we send, will be better than like the last X amount of years. All the teams that we send will be very different. Top side meta, T1 got us covered. Bot side meta, obviously you're in a good spot. Mid carry meta, there's a couple of angles there because we're actually sending teams that are diverse. Like if you go back to last year, I don't really think that existed. The team identity was as strong as it is this time around.
Yeah, I think it's maybe just
because Hanwha was.
Yeah, Hanwha was. We don't really know. I mean, that was a bottom side team.
Yeah.
Damwon was a top side team. Gen G was an entire map kind of team.
They were weird.
Which was
Next
definitely
in Azir.
Yeah, it was definitely a very, very strange scenario. And then T1 was just T1.
Well, that's my point. It's like they had to play topside, but it didn't really work.
No, and it was Canna, and he wasn't necessarily as versatile as what Zeus proved to be. So, yeah, you're right. I guess now it does feel
that's cool at least.
With our theoretical teams that are going to Worlds, we tick a few extra boxes.
I think Damwon is an extremely versatile team. Like they're the team I feel like can absorb any meta and at least be above average at it.
Yeah.
Let's just hope that Rumble Jungle doesn't
if it's a top meta and Sandbox is play like that's a disaster. That's
Yeah.
Think about that for a second.
Dove has to play Renekton every game.
I mean, Dove will just move to bot lane. That is what's going to happen. Prince is going to play top, and he's going to play like Quinn Kalista top lane. You know, like
swap.
It'll be.
We
fine.
did see that Quinn hover today, and I was getting a little bit excited.
Scared.
I was waiting for the Akshan hover instead. I was like, Quinn, why not just Akshan? You know, you can Aladdin this lane easy. Not to be the case. Not to be the case. But I think we have. I think we have definitely spoken for an extraordinary amount of time for this episode, gentlemen. Only a few more days, and then it is time for the LCK final. I hope that everyone at home, I hope you guys are also looking forward to that one that's in a few days. But for now, from us, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe, click the like, and do the bell thing, and do all that sort of cool stuff. You can throw tweets at us if you need us to have another bathroom episode. By another one, I mean the first one. You can throw us a tweet over at Pogstate on Twitter. But that'll do it for us. Stay sweet, guys, and we'll see you next time.
there.
He is there. Can he make it into the pit? The answer is no. As the Rend and the Smite is going to be good. And take a look at this. Are you getting away from Zeka in this case? Everybody is turning up to him, but he has a Zhonya's. And he has insane amounts of damage. You can't take him down. As the Kingslayer will just keep him alive bit by bit. Finally, they do kill the raid boss, but it's not going to matter because everybody else on the side of Nongshim
which he's done better than, I'd say, any other AD carry within the LCK. He's always been at least on item parity. He is very far behind the curve right now.
Yeah, not sure why they're here. Bible hits a delicious ultimate onto 3 of them.
천천히 전령 깔면서 다이브박을 생각할게. 스카 하나 타고 들어가서 나 지금 들어갈게.
I don't know, a couple of minutes as well.
Okay, so they're just going to try to get Peanut here, who is going to get a very nice flash, but straight into the Curse of the Sad Mummy, but immediately Amumu goes down. Doran goes forward. He's frontlining for his team. What a huge play. And Toby gets a massive sweep into 4 of them. And Gen.G, yes, they will still lose 2 members.
야, 죽었다. 안녕, 얘들아.
Oh, he's just playing with his food now. That's what I was talking about, this top lane. I'm like, this is not very close when it comes to the individual ability of these 2 players to play out a lane. And Rascal is just dunking on him.
Beckons while you dream.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Konglung for the 2022 Summer Finals. Thank you so much for your patience, and we apologize. There was a massive broadcast issue. Wasn't to do with the game or anything like that. Unfortunately, network issues like this can occur. This one was particularly bad, and hopefully we have solved it and we can actually start the final now.
Yeah, that's the hope. We are looking to be jumping back in as soon as possible. From what we're told, the issue is mostly resolved, just doing final checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I personally, it's really unfortunate, but better now than when the game actually starts. Players at least can, you know, the moment the game starts, actually be in the zone, be focused, because that, to me, in situations like this, in such a high-stakes environment, getting into that focus that is required to play at this level, and then being for an indefinite amount of time, because of course, due to the issues, I don't know how long, but kind of lose sense of time in situations like this.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah. Having to do that during a game would have been disastrous. It's still disastrous, but I like to think I'm an optimist, so yeah, it could have been worse.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The fact that this happens before we even start picks and bans means that no strategies are shown or anything like that. Like, this is honestly the best possible scenario. We also got our opening ceremony out, you know, we got to see all of that. It was really just while the players were about to start that the issue occurred, so.
Yeah, exactly right. Now you can see that all of the players are now at the PCs as well, so we are counting down to try and get towards game number 1's draft. And yeah, like you guys were saying, I completely agree. With it actually happening just before the draft started meant that it was very, very close to it being a catastrophic problem where maybe we just have a game that was going that we were unable to broadcast, and that would definitely not have been the optimal scenario. So definitely very glad that we're getting to the end of the issues, and that, you know, when they did happen, they happened before anything had actually started. So
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that we can actually get into this game, because we are desperate to see how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
Just to update you guys too, like if you're just tuning in, you showed up a little bit late. We have not played any League of Legends yet. Like, we have not started game 1. The draft did not happen. T1 does have side selection. They chose blue side. So we are about to go into a draft as soon as the final checks are done here.
Yep.
And that's what we are, you know, waiting for at this moment in time. So if you're just tuning in wondering why, you know, we're not in game and like you can't see the score, there is no score because it hasn't started yet.
Yep.
Except score on.
Yeah, that was the joke that I was going to make as well.
Looks like the game's working though. You can see players are in the practice tool, so we're at least practicing and getting everything sorted out, making sure that checks are all happening. And the network issue was a broadcast network issue, not a game network issue. So thankfully, the game has been unaffected as of now. But yeah, just making sure that everything is ready, everything's good to go for the players, and they are looking like they're getting it sorted out. We were actually following the players when we were coming back to the caster desk, and so they should probably be pretty close to being ready to go. Just hopefully you guys can hear us, because that was part of the issue last time.
Yeah,
not entirely sure. Like, we had a phenomenal intro, by the way, everyone at home.
Really well.
It was just amazing. We said some just really poignant and beautiful things, but unfortunately, you guys just couldn't hear it.
It was evocative. There was a lot of history involved. There was a quiz element brought to it. It was great.
It was exactly right. But as you can see, Caster Jun is on screen now. That means that we are going to be as well. And it means that we are getting very, very close to jumping into that game number 1. Once again, just want to say a big sorry on behalf of the LCK that this has happened. And also thank you so much for your patience. We need to make sure that we draw out this as much as possible, though, to be perfectly honest, because more finals day sounds like a better day to me. I don't know about you guys. I know you probably didn't want to sit around and wait, but I personally am just happy that we've just got more time.
Are you, Atlas?
Any sort of interesting scenario that occurs makes the finals more memorable.
Exactly right.
No one will forget how the start of this one went and how long they waited for it. But we're going to be, you know, jumping in soon. As you guys could see, everyone's getting hyped up behind us. Korean commentators are calling we're about to start. The first draft is about to begin.
Oh my goodness, we are ready to go. You can see Gumayushi looking so confident as per usual. So we scan down the T1 players. Zeus looking extraordinarily focused, which I think is extremely important for this series in particular. I think the top side is where T1 have so much of their strength in comparison to Gen.G, who are so powerful there towards that bottom side. But this man right here, the man that is having a bit of a stretch, has certainly been a big power point of the recent weeks for Gen.G. So is this man on your screen right here
going to be enough to turn the series.
I think that picks like Sejuani are so huge for T1 going into these drafts because it's flexible to the jungle. Not the style of player that Owner is really in the jungle, but it's a lot more powerful right now. Zeus has been great on the Sejuani. Or just taking away those Renekton's, especially when Gen G has blue side. They will not, of course, for game one, but looks like we're ready.
Yeah, let's get into it. Game 1 draft will be underway. Here we go. T1 on the blue side, as we mentioned before, they won the coin toss. They chose blue, as you would expect. Gen G will be on the red side, and let's see what the bans are going to be. Gentlemen, this was a big point, and Wolf, you've said it many times, but Poppy will be the first ban.
Yeah, Carrier going to lose his Nautilus as well, right off the board, right off the bat here. These are 2 picks we know these players have been so reliant on this season. No Lucian for Ruler, and Kalista might go into that 3rd spot, but Gumayusi himself has been so prominently a strong player of it. Gen G take that away from him before we even get to have the discussion.
The Poppy, I think, provides a really big problem for T1 because picking it yourself into the Morgana feels like a risk, and you definitely can't give it to Peanut. So, like that ban a lot is the Yuumi gonna get taken away, and everyone cheers. There's 1 point we can all agree on. Zeri, that's annoying, but Zeri and Yuumi is a combination that is truly fearsome. Gonna remain up, but other picks, Ahri, still up.
Yeah,
There, still up. Sivir, Zeri, they're all there.
Yeah, Sivir going to this first slot means you have to give Chovy the Ahri, and Vi is open as well, going into this red side for Gen G. So yeah, you get really strong bottom side control with the Sivir. They go and lock ahead the Zeri right away, but that Ahri pick really looms as a strong one. And they'll actually prioritize the Azir over it despite the Vi being open.
I think this is very, very interesting. The Zeri actually going to be picked without a Yuumi into a Sivir. This is something that Ruler actually said himself means that Zeri doesn't necessarily do as well in the lane. We've seen it happen so many times, but the Azir is extraordinarily important. Sivir Azir, I think, has been an insane combination for so many teams, but Faker, he can pick the Ahri into it and will do so straight away.
Can't quite give up a combination. Lulu, I think, also has kind of shut up in priority if Gen G wants to go with the Enchanter out. Generally has been a combination, not quite as good as the Yuumi, but still provide a ton of extra survivability and a little bit more pressure in terms of laning as well. As the Wukong pickup, no surprise there. And now Gen G have a choice. Do you pick up the Lulu, augment your bot lane, or do you pick up a Trundle for Peanut? That has been the go-to pick. Going to be the Lulu.
Yeah, I think the Trundle definitely is going to get removed now by T1. And T1 have a draft of S-tier picks, the Sivir, the Ahri, the Wukong. They all work very well together, even though we've seen Vi Ahri as a duo be a menace. When you already have that powerhouse in the bottom side for lane control with the Sivir, you're not as reliant on that dive style. And since you can remove the Trundle here, the Wukong doesn't feel like a liability. You know that you can either get rid of the Trundle or the Lulu. So 1 power point here gained from T1. And T1 definitely has the tier list advantage right now. And it's been so surprising to see the Azir prioritized here for Chovy instead.
The Morgana will be banned away from Peanut, of course, has been a pick that's actually risen to quite a lot of popularity. It's not just Peanut that's been playing it, although he did debut it this season here in the LCK. Still will be taken away. We expect that the Trundle will come out afterwards. The Camille has been taken away from Zeus as well. Certainly one of his better, more aggressive choices towards the top side.
Not only is Zeus good on the pick, as he is on most picks, has been playing exceptionally well, but what I love about the Camille ban is that the Vi obviously not going to get picked up as the Wukong is already there, and Camille is one of the very few champions that can provide you with a 100% reliable way to lock down Zeri in late game. With Gen G playing so heavily towards that bot side, seems like a no-brainer here. You pick up a jungler for Peanut, and then you can R5 a counter pick for Doran, try to make the top side as comfortable as possible, because as much as I think Zeus has the edge, if Doran gets a counter pick, sure, he's not as good as Zeus, but he's going to be just fine.
You know what else is open here is Renata, and that has been something that hasn't really been an option teams are allowed to have this deep in the draft. So you ban away the Karma, Renata's still open here. And Lulu's already locked in here for Gen G. You have a little bit more wave clear with that. You can, of course, stop some of the engages, but it's hard to lock down a Zeri, and I'm really curious with no Nautilus here, with the pick, obviously, they prepared for Ruler here, the Zeri. They gave the Sivir. What is Keria going to play in this draft? Ornn gets locked in first. Feels like an Aatrox angle here potentially for Doran. But what's that support? Because this is the toughest call, I think, here for T1 in this draft, controlling the wave. And it will be the Amumu with Sivir, not a common duo here. Still strong for lane engage. And there's the Aatrox. We all knew it was coming when we saw the Ornn. It's Doran's meta. It's 12-14. And he's going to get this. Peanut gets the Sejuani. They have so much engage, but also consistent damage here in the late game. Azir, Zeri, you have the Lulu here to help protect. And T1, going to be more pick-based here in this draft.
Looking at T1, you know, the late game teamfight power that you have between the front to back engages that you can find with Amumu and with Ornn. And then the Sivir damage on top of it in the late game. Yeah, there's a Zeri on the enemy team, but you'll still have more than enough power. But looking at the mid game, if Owner and Faker can't find picks going into fights and they can get onto the enemy backline, I think it'll be very tough. Doran in the early to mid game going to be an absolute menace as well, especially when paired with Sejuani.
Exactly right. Coaches are going to bow to one another, fighting for this trophy in the middle of the room. Gen.G, decent drafting there on the red side. I like the flexibility of the Sejuani as well. Of course, it has moved to a lot more of a jungle pick, especially in other regions. But here in the LCK, especially in the hands of Doran, he does still like to play it towards the top side as one of his tanks of choice. But glad to see on more of that tempo pick in the Aatrox.
And, you know, we've talked so much about how Zeri has been reliant on Yuumi to find success in our playoffs. Ruler now gets to prove that he could do it with Lulu against one of the best bot duos in the world historically. They're not, you know, in their current form at the end of the season, weren't on many people's top 3. But this is going to be such an exciting matchup where Ruler can prove himself on this area potentially in the late game if he could survive long enough to get there.
Yep, and of course Gumayusi was the one that debuted the reworked Sivir as well into Zeri on the bottom side of the map. When he did so, it was with the Yuumi. This time around, I actually feel like without Yuumi in the picture, Sivir is just a better champion in a lot of ways as you even move towards that late game where we see so many of these Zeri angles. It's so much more difficult to pull off when it's against the Sivir. But here we are into game number 1 of the LCK 2022 Summer Finals. And Kangwon explodes as the T1 fan chant rings out. But Gen.G fans certainly showing up in force as well. And let's see who's going to be able to take the game 1 win. Gumayusi with the best skin as we start this one off. But you can see no funny business. T1 just looking for some potential angles there towards the bottom side. But otherwise, all is calm on Summoner's Rift.
Top side start here for Peanut. It looks like potentially, well, we'll see if he sticks around. Think that pathing bottom here against the Sivir Amumu, which is going to be wave clear control. Notice the call start here for Ruler. He knows what kind of laning phase he's gotten himself into. He takes cleanse here, Lahen's exhaust as well. You just want to be able to survive those longer team fights with Lulu's help. And in the laning phase, you just want to make sure you don't die, don't lose too much control. Because T1 have so much prio with these lanes that in general, with this just Sivir alone, you can do things like this, engage non-stop. And you will be able to get to the objective first. What happens there is all up to execution, but I love T1's setup here in draft for the early game.
For the uninitiated Amumu, with his kit, going to be able to reduce a lot of the damage that the Zeri is able to do. And of course, the lockdown that he's able to provide relatively unconditionally if he can get into the enemy backline with Curse of the Sad Mummy. Not as good as a Camille or a Vi would have been, but another direction that T1 has gone into. As Peanut has been one of our more creative junglers, has been very vocal about looking to the LPL for different pathings, trying to catch people off guard, trying to find timings that other people might not quite be ready for. Not the best Sejuani game. We've seen it combine a lot with things like the Silas, of course, when it was played top, also with the Viego, and really only have Doran to kind of augment you in this given situation. But as long as you can find some CC, it can still be very strong.
And I think there was a really interesting thing that you brought up, Wolf, a little bit earlier on about this mid lane and where the priority is actually going to lie. Because we've seen in the Azir-Ahri matchup, it can go either way. Right now, we're seeing that Chovy has some control of the lane, but a lot of it is going to come down to whether Faker can find some of those angles, find some of those charms, and really get this lane working out in T1's favor.
And realistically, looking at the top half of the map, Genji should be king in terms of getting the shove. As soon as Doran gets a couple of levels in his Darkened Blade, Zeus' time is going to be a lot harder. Should not be under any threat, but post early levels, definitely in a little bit of a weaker situation. And even though a lot of our Azirs have gone for laning runes, we've seen Comet, we've seen Ahri, we've seen Scorch make a comeback as a loner.
So cute, but
Chovy was ready.
Pretty good.
Now, what's so interesting to me about how this bottom side matchup has gone is even with the call start here for Ruler, they're laning it out so incredibly well, picks up 25 stacks of it, and it has been bottom side control for the most part here for Ruler and Lahens. Keria, we saw that early engage with the Amuma, but otherwise didn't find any trades. And historically speaking, this has been Sivir controlled, this matchup, but the laning phase is going so well here for Ruler and Lahens. So thus far, that same control isn't there at the moment.
And is this to do with having the Amumu on the side of the Sivir this time around? Of course, you don't have as much of that lane presence, so maybe that's a sacrifice that T1 had to make.
You're playing double ranged or you're playing into double range.
Yeah.
Lulu is extremely oppressive. Not quite as annoying as Renata, but between Glitterlands and Polymorph, you're still not feeling super great about it. Peanut is at least able to pick up the back half of those Krugs. But in addition to that, Sivir's Wave Clear doesn't really get online until you get to Noon Quiver, and that's when you start to be able to at least shove in the waves. But early levels can always be a little bit tricky, even with Keria going in there early on. Post 6, I do think that becomes a lot better, as Peanut just making sure that Zeus is going to have to keep playing respectful. And on top side, it's somewhat similar for Doran. It's not until you get first back in and a couple of levels in your queue that you really start to be able to shove in. And for Genji in the mid game, I'm going to be looking how do they find angles, because a straight up front to back where Doran doesn't get backline access, even with how many late game spikes and how much item dependency is on T1, will always be tough, just because Wukong combined with Amumu, combined with Ornn, is kind of a menace to play.
Yeah, there's so many ways to stop Doran from having that big spike in the mid game here in terms of the CC setup. It can be charmed early too, and for the side of Genji, you know, you have the non-committal CC from the Sejuani ultimate, but it can be spell shielded by Gumayusi, right? There's a lot of mobility, there's a lot of front line for the Sivir. So how do you lock down and kill the Sivir? Getting through all the front line, the charm, the Ornn Horn, and winning that longer fight for Chovy, who's going to be the second half of the damage here with the Zeri in the later game, is going to be a difficult challenge to navigate. But he's one of the best players in the world on Azir, and I think he's up to the task.
Yeah, I think that so much of it is going to come down to Chovy, actually, and I think this could be worrying to some of our Genji fans, because I think that Chovy had probably the more quiet of the performances in their playoffs match already against Live Sandbox. And yes, it was a 3-1, right? It was a very decisive win, but I think that Genji didn't win through Chovy so much in that series, but here in this game, on his Azir, I think he's going to be incredibly pivotal as we get later and later into it to make sure that these Emperor's Divides get rid of so much of the close range CC.
And if you don't group up and you don't get immediately picked off, Faker doesn't find an early reset, that's where I think that the Genji comp is a lot stronger. Have a really early spike with an Aatrox Sejuani, can actually duel very well, especially if you can isolate a target. So as long as you don't walk into multi-man wombo combos as Genji, which they generally haven't. The team fighting has been very, very good. I think the early objective fight should go their way, and an early Mountain Drake in a situation where you're going to be looking for a lot of mid-game fights can have incredible value. And even if all of that fails, you always have the Ruler contingency plan, because Zeri Azir is a very disgusting combination, because if you ever hit anyone with an Azir ult, you can be sure that a Extendo Beam is to follow. And that ability is definitely quite strong.
Yeah, both of these teams have some form of, between the Boomerang and the Extendo Beam, neutral poke, and it will often, I think, come down to whether Ruler can hit that poke more consistently. I think he has a lot more opportunities to do it than Gumayusi will when we get to later parts of the game on even footing. And The first team fight here over this first Herald, which looks like is going to be the first contention point, is going to be based around whether Zeus and Keria can have good engage if Keria, of course, comes there. And Owner's Cyclone can also be super massive in a team fight like this. Gen.G don't have the same sort of level 6 spikes here across the board, even with the Azir ult, which is one of the best in the game. Against what T1 are running here, they're going to have a numbers advantage or a setup advantage, or T1 should have the edge here going into that first fight.
Yep, I really like Supermassive Cyclone as well. One of the lesser-known Muse albums, I'm pretty sure. As Doran up against Zeus here does have a little bit of attention as Owner is moving up. But as you can see, more of a defensive gank position for Owner, wanting to make sure that if there is any attention, that he will be able to mitigate it. But already Owner falling behind just a little bit with Peanut getting into his jungle, stealing away his blue buff. Still, T1 with some control of this Herald. We'll see what they're going to be able to get done here as Lahen's moving his way down. 2v2 still on that bottom side as Doran gets full information of what's going on. And Gen.G just going to shake the hands of T1 and say that they'll take away a dragon.
And that's a perfectly fine trade to take. Dragons, in my opinion, are a lot stronger than Rift Herald is right now. The immediate gold that you're able to get from the Rift Herald not always quite working out. And as Gen.G, it also gives you the opportunity to maybe reach your one-item spikes, where Doran is actually sitting on a Gore Drinker, has a level 9 available, actually has a bit more power in a Darkened Blade. You can get maybe a first item for Chovy, for Ruler, and that will give you a lot more explosiveness when it comes to these early fights. So going to be a full handshake.
I think that if Faker had more control in mid lane, if this matchup was going a little bit more Faker favored, which, historically, when we talk about this, it goes both ways in the LCK, but it's Chovy, right? He usually wins these out in this matchup. If he had a little bit more control, maybe T1 could have actually prevented the handshake and tried to force, 2 takes. But as a result, I think Gen.G get everything they want here. They know that there's a high risk of if they fought on Herald there, they give a huge gold lead to T1 and lose Herald and then won't get the Dragon. So just trading like this, I think is absolutely the best call for them right now, because their comp is going to naturally scale very well, isn't as reliant on picks. And yes, the comp of T1 does scale very well with the Sivir, but I think they have a double threat here. And the mid-game fights they're looking to take with this Aatrox are going to be so much more empowered by that permanent buff of the Drake than the temporary gold you were talking about.
And do we think it's going to be a Cloud Soul, gentlemen? This is the time where we take bets. You have Hextech, Cloud, or Mountain as your options.
So not in game 1.
Or Infernal as your options, not Mountain. That one has already been taken.
Follow you, Atlas.
You reckon it's going to be Cloud as well? Excellent. Absolutely fantastic. Peanut going to be moving into the river here as Owner and Keria are going to vacate the area. T1 not looking for any fights right now, as you can see. And, of course, not a lot to fight over.
Gotta save those clouds for later on in the series,
you gotta keep them ready, yeah, for the high-stake moments. Best soul in the game, according to Atlas specifically.
Well, and my favorite NALCS team, the FlyQuest, of course, they used Cloud Soul to win a series. They were absolutely amazing with the Cloud Soul being the MVP. So definitely good stuff. Charm connects here on Chovy. Nice bit of damage.
Saved her with that one. I'm not gonna go.
Did you like how I just tried to cut you off?
Yeah.
Like,
no, it's a great
no
choice.
counterpoint.
Great choice. No, I wouldn't dare. I won't bring it up. A lot of this very slow pace is also explainable by, I can see both teams feeling like they have a scaling advantage here. And it's actually a very interesting conversation, because my opinion will go towards T1. I think if Gen.G get the time, they will always win out in late game team fights. And if Ruler goes unchecked, which he has been generally. But when you look at the front to back of T1, like, no matter what the game state is, you can always win a fight with that. So I think both teams are very happy in the first game of a best of 5, as high stakes as this, to just sit back and trade.
Yeah, and that's been exactly what T1 have done in game 1s of best of 5s almost their entire time. But you can see Gen.G already starting things off here. Zeus does find the Ornhorn. A fair bit of work being done here as Doran was trying to hold on to the aggro as much as he could, and Zeus will survive.
Yeah, only a plate goes down, and they do get the flash here, of course, out of Zeus as well, but he handled it so perfectly there and does survive with his life. Will find himself still 20 CS down, but could have been much worse there.
Really nicely done there by Zeus, able to stay alive, absorbing pressure, the way that we've seen him do so many times. Downside for T1, there isn't really a cross-map play available, and it does take away from some of the impact you can have in the early fights. The flash, or Call of the Forge God, has been very, very strong. But not giving up a kill there, because that would have, without a shadow of a doubt, led to a lot more going down. And with this CC chain that you get here,
so well played.
Yeah, really well done. Like, gets the knock-up. Doran tries to tank for as long as possible, but with Peanut going for opening up with the ult to try and deny a Bellows Breath value also means that you don't get the second permafrost proc, which means actually taking him down gets quite hard.
Yeah, if they had timed the CC a little bit better, they could have stopped the activation, but he handled it so perfectly there after the flash and does end up surviving. But I think Gen.G made this call the second the Herald is dealt with mid. They're like, well, there's no cross map for you now. We're going to instantly pull the trigger topside where we have a lot of control. Doran has been playing this matchup so well. He's led to, the advantages he has led to a faster Gore Drinker. He has his Mythic first. Knows that Zeus, of course, lost, or he's going to lose his flash now, so he can push advantages further.
Ooh, the flash charm's fantastic. Curse of the Sad Mommy comes through, and Chovy will go down for first blood, and Faker picks it up.
There you go. There's some action for you. That's a successful kill in the mid lane. And it's going to be 2 Dark Seal stacks going into his pocket as well. And that is going to be a big commitment here to Turret as well. They have Demolish.
Yeah, Faker taking Demolish on the Ahri here, which is very cute. Ruler is going to skate over the wall, so not going to be taking the turret this time around, but that is 4 plates already.
Really big moment there for T1. Not just in terms of what it gets them in gold, because gold's still even. But most importantly, getting a big kill in a game like that, getting first blood, I think puts you off on a great foot. What it means for the game, though, is that with the turret still standing, and Faker not having a flash and an ultimate and no Cyclone being available either, is the opportunity now for Gen.G to pick themselves up a second Drake, as that could not have been intended, unfortunately, for Lehens.
Want to make sure that you get as many angles when he's checking his makeup and things like that. Lehens just out as many
driving the bus.
We have seen some weird visual bugs, like rarely, but I mean the observer's highlighting it there means he probably did actually buy that twice. But rushing to the Drake, and the point still stands we were making before that was pointed out, is they do take it. T1 trying to make cross map topside.
Yeah, finds the bandage toss. Carrier seems to be everywhere right now, but Umbral Dash is pretty powerful, and there is the Infernal Soul for game number 1. It is a spicy one here, and T1 looking for another dive. A beautiful charm will connect, but the Gore Drinker is doing so much work here for Doran, and he says everything you can do, I can do not quite as well, as he does eventually fall down. T1 secure the top dive.
Very well played there to make a cross map, but it's not as significant as getting that second Drake advantage that Gen.G has. It buys them so much longevity in this game, and it's Infernal Soul, so they're closer to that objective as well. And this is actually pretty massive in terms of what it's going to mean when we head into those later objective fights, especially as Doran is getting to the mid game here on this Aatrox. Getting the 2 as early as they did is way more significant. At least T1 gets something back, but Chovy also pushing down the Ornn here, going to grab a whole turret.
Really nicely done there by Faker as well. Second time he's been able to find a roam, as the TP is going to save the topside turret. Heal, making sure Owner can actually stay in that fight a little bit longer. Gonna trade. First turret blood, yes, goes over to Gen.G as Faker almost dies, but when it comes to map control, getting that mid lane turret is way more valuable. Also means that the overall trade is still good for T1, but with 2 Drakes already going over to Gen.G, all they need to do is win like one of the next 2 free Drake fights, and they're on Infernal Soul points, and with a Zeri, you'll take that.
Yeah, we're going all the way back to this pick where the flash charm comes through. The follow-up is there. Keria and Owner have the ability to chain CC Chovy to death. And the flash charm was so quick, he doesn't flash it. Chovy gets charmed, that's the end of that. And here's the topside play. Doran has Gore Drinker. Look at how much value he gets here with the stack up. Still not enough, doesn't get the knock up there onto Owner. Owner tanks the aggro so Faker can come through and secure the kill.
Yeah, it was almost a disaster there, but Keria had his stopwatch, so is able to avoid death. Of course, at this stage of the game, the Amumu, not exactly the tankiest, but is still sitting on 0-0-2. Keria, first kill in that bottom side of mid lane, then immediately towards that top side of the map. This is what we knew and loved Keria for so much when he was being touted as the best support in Korea. That has not been something that we've been throwing around so much this season, but it's a great start to this series that he's finding his form once again.
Also puts a little bit more perspective into the Amumu pick, because as a Zeri counter, in quotes, it's been pretty middling, especially when not compared with the Kalista. That combination is one that we've seen used to great efficiency. And while all of this action on topside has been happening, both AD carries have been unbothered, having a good time, farming up to, at the very least, a 2-item power spike. Doran gets pressured here.
A lot of help coming, though, as they really just want to force this turret down. But Lulu's here, Peanut's nearby, and they will not be able to force this on this first wave. Doran deals with it very nicely. What I love about the Keria Amumu is he's basically just playing it like it's a Nautilus pick. It doesn't obviously have the R button, but it's an engaged champ that's going to give him the opportunity if he plays it perfectly. As once again setting up here, Lehens not seen.
Yeah, Doran taking a fair bit of damage, but that can be a little bit misleading. As we know, Gore Drinker plus existing as Aatrox. Certainly a lot of ways to get your health back, as Chovy and Faker just fighting here towards the bottom side. They've just made a new lane for them to battle in. This one's a lot longer though, so Chovy's going to have to be a little bit careful, but he knows that most of T1 are towards that top side, as Ruler set up shop in the mid lane, also has a long lane himself, but he can skate over walls. Zeri's kit just pretty good at avoiding death, but it looks like finally T1 will be able to break down this top outer turret. And there it is, turret number 2 will be secured here for T1.
And no cross map available this time around for Gen G. What they can do though, and what hopefully they will, is set up. In the minute the Drake spawns, and it's a make or break moment here for both teams. As T1, if you win a team fight here decisively, then that provides you with a great opportunity to both slow down what I think is going to be a great win condition for Gen G, and get towards your late game 5v5s. For Gen G, if you do get it, you're able to win a subsequent fight as well, then the map looks very, very different, because you might get mid-tier 1. You're going to be able to do a lot with the power of that Infernal.
They get the scuttle here, but they're not actually able to hold on to Prio, because like you mentioned, there was a lot of time they had to set up, but they couldn't actually get it done while also managing their backs here. Notice that we're going to see a safe teleport here into the mid lane from Chovy. Does not want to actually teleport into the fight itself. Wants to get here as fast as possible and clear that wave, but T1 will actually get control of the bottom side here. They pinged it early. They were going to push into bottom turret. Their back timing is brilliant. They have second Herald. And Gen G, if they want to fight for this, they're going to have to force it through a choke point.
Yeah, and they'll also have to deal with Shirley knocking on their back door here, as she's going to move down towards this bottom side. Doran is going to be able to deal with her. But Gen G, it's going to be a little bit more difficult with the fact that Doran had to show there in that bottom lane. Still, Drake has just spawned. T1 immediately starting it off with Kerry on a flank angle. Peanut going to move on over, sweeping out vision where he can. And remember, these Drakes are pretty tanky these days. Chovy going to be setting up some of these Sand Soldiers. Extendo Beam finds no joy as Gen G setting up for their first 5v5 of the game to try and stop T1 from stealing away this Drake. It looks like T1 don't want to overcommit to this one though. But here is the Ornhorn. It is going to be secured by Owner. They take the Drake, but can they win the fight? Doran, he's been exhausted. Peanut flashes. Arctic Assault gets himself out. No one's died in the fight. Finds a huge ultimate, and Carrier will go down. Peanut, the wild growth on top of him, and it is a double kill already for the Zeri. I guess we're Zeri gaming, ladies and gentlemen, as somehow Chovy got that kill on the bottom side. It's a triple for Ruler as well, and Gen G walk away with the fight.
Not GG quite yet, but we're getting close.
Are we certifying that one, Wolf? How you feeling?
I want to say, yeah, the block from Peanut on the charm was so massive, though. Faker looks for the charm on the Ruler, and he's not able to get it. Peanut blocks it. He doesn't get the charm on the Zeri, and Ruler has free reign. It doesn't matter if you have a Yuumi or not, if you're untouched. Guma!
Oh, no. He does have a spell shield. Doran's not going to be able to find him just yet, so he's going to be okay. But the Baron is going over to Gen G. So, yeah, they lose a Drake, but they'll take a Baron.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's bad if you lose this fight and the Drake, but it's one Infernal Drake. Who cares? Getting Zeri fed at this point in the game is so pivotal, and what T1 tries to do here is eliminate the front line, and then you can win the rest of the fights. Carry out zoning away, but Doran stays alive for so long, flashes over. Peanut with a beautiful stopwatch keeps himself alive, and Ruler,
Look at the block for the charm. He just makes sure Ruler can't get caught there. And they knew they had, with the stopwatch, enough time here for Ruler. I thought T1's idea is fantastic, like you said, destroy the front line, but they're not able to do it. And the stakes were high, and Gen G, in longer fights, they now have... They've had Leandre's for a while, but they have Death Cap on top of it here for Chovy. And in these neutral fights, you have to be so decisive as T1. Otherwise, longer fights, you will always lose.
And it was also such a great fight for T1 for a lot of different reasons as well, because you mentioned the fact that the Leandres, the Death Cap, are now there for Chovy. They weren't there in that last fight. The item advantage was in Faker's favor. If that charm had have landed onto Ruler, then maybe this whole game is just going to be collapsing in favor of T1. Instead, as the Ornhorn comes through yet again, Ruler gets caught in the Ruler position one more time. The Everfrost will be avoided though, but the charm will not. And that is the kill, and as we say it, Ruler gets caught out. Doran now with a Baron buff will be pushing top lane, but this is going to slow down Gen G so much.
Such a nice angle found out by Owner. He's the reason that the play is able to work in the first place, and I was about to give Ruler credit for picking up a QSS. I was like, man, Ruler has learned. He's not going to die in the Ruler spot, but even just thinking of it made it happen as Carrier.
Yeah, possibly in trouble here as Lehen's going to slow him down with that Glitter Lance. There's not a lot of damage with this duo, but they have a lot of CC as the Bandage Toss will guarantee that Carrier dies on his own terms. Gen G, they will be able to take themselves a pick as well. Currently about 4,000 gold the lead here for Gen G.
And as nice as that pick feels, in the grand scheme of things, Gen G still trade very favorable in turf. They get a topside turret now, they're still able to push here, so it takes some tempo out of this Baron, but by the end of it, still 5k gold lead for Gen G.
Peanut has non-committal CC here over the wall potentially as well. They have to be so careful. Guma has to position really well, or has to be ready with the spell shield, or there is a lot of follow-up CC, or Toby could just scoop him out if he's out of position for just a second. Doran teleported into that pick onto Carrier, so he's already bottom side to set up for a bottom push here as well, as Rulers, as respawned, come up to the top side and is looking for the set. But this is what you were talking about. Owner disables this ward. They have the Ornhorn engaged. There's only so many places Ruler can go. And even with going over the wall here, Owner waits for him there. They have to follow up. And I did not have Ruler dying in the Ruler position in game 1 on my bingo card for the summer finals.
I'm pretty sure it was there. It's just we weren't expecting to fill it in. But it's always
not
going to
in
be on
game
that.
1, you know?
It's a little antiquated. Yeah, it's the old bingo card from last year. Also, note, that kill, that shutdown went over to the best person on T1, Guma, who was able to at least maintain some form of item parity as a result, because the Sivir picking up an early item, especially going for a very necessary, I might add, as that's very unfortunate.
Doran doesn't like timepieces.
Yeah, he's going to buy GA
he just
anyway.
Stepped on it, walking through the jungle.
He was both giving a shout out to Valdez and also saying, I don't need this to win.
Power
it's
move.
a confidence play. 100% a confidence play, not a misclick. That's what we're putting it down to. Hopefully, he's going to be able to let us know if he gets interviewed after the series. But for now, we're just going to assume that it's confidence.
Well, Gen G have so much control over this spawning Drake right now. It is, I mean, absurd how little angles T1 have. Faker just switched back to teleport, of course, on this Ahri so he can get over here, but he doesn't have any great teleport wards to come to. Look at the vision control here for Gen G around the entirety of the pit. They've got mid controlled, and yeah, bottom side's pushing into a turret, but Gen G aren't very concerned. And this should be sole point going over to Gen G.
And looking at the item breakpoints that we are going to hit for T1 in the next 5 minutes, as this is going to go down, they're not that amazing. Maybe Faker gets death cap, that's very big. But with Guma going for, again, a very necessary, Lord Dominic's playing the Sejuani, playing its Aatrox, stacking a ton of armor, it does mean that that Infinity Edge spike is delayed. And that is when the Sivir truly becomes unreasonable to play into, especially with frontline. So I don't know. Like, Gen G is going to hit Infinity Edge on Ruler, maybe even GA on Doran. And if you have those items going into a soul point fight, you're feeling peachy.
Yeah, and Void Staff as well. Going to be coming through for Chovy in a nick of time as Peanut thinking about whether he can steal this one away. Owner pulls it into the brush, and he will not be able to steal it. Chovy here setting up shop towards the top side as we have bounty gold. Gen G with a large advantage right now. Still, anything is possible, and ornaments are starting to come in. That is a lot of gold's worth of stats that T1 will be able to put together, but they have to make sure that they win, and they be counting their blessings with the fact that Owner was able to lock down the smite on that Infernal Drake. His smites have been so good this whole year, and that was a pivotal one.
And what we also saw is that unless you actually kill Ruler, and especially when the Void Staff is finished, and or Chovy, doesn't matter if you kill Doran and Peanut, because they will buy enough time. And once that IE is finished, Ruler needs maybe 3 seconds, and with Guma's performance up until recently, Lord Dominic's is now finished, but will definitely not be having that Infinity Edge ready, so gonna be need to do, I mean, a lot more work.
Gen G have these big spikes coming across as this, you know, right now T1 doesn't have that IE for the Sivir, and it's unfortunately the other carry they have is an Ahri who's not going to do consistent long-term damage, so you're so reliant on your engage here as T1 if you're going to take this fight itself. You actually need to get a pick instantly and turn that into a 5v4 fight you can manage by getting a second pick very quickly. If you get 2 picks, like you said, very slowly, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Now, T1 do have prio for this.
Yeah, they are going to be able to get into this river, clear out vision where they can. managing to catch Genji on a reset. They're looking to start this one off. This is definitely aggressive. This feels like a T1 play, but Doran's going to dive into the pit. Finds himself an Infernal Chains, but now Carrier looks for the flash. He gets it onto 3. Chovy immediately flashing out. Peanut also going to escape, but Lehens is not so lucky. And Genji, they lose their Lulu, and now T1 with so much control.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. You get those picks instantly, you get them fast, you have the hard engage from Carrier on the Samumu, and that's all it takes.
Well, I've seen this one before, gentlemen.
Yeah, I don't know about this.
Again is Doran. Remember, he does have that Gore Drinker. It's still at the ready. He can get all of that health back. It's once again Umbral Dash over the wall. Ruler at full health. He's immediately going to get sniped. Carrier has to go golden. Chovy as well. It's the Baron secured for T1. But can they win the fight? Empress Device, massive Peanut looking to clean up. And speaking of clean up, Ruler is dashing around the fight. It's a Quadra. As now Owner is trying to deny that Penta and run away. But Ruler, he just has his eyes on these structures.
He's not even going. Ruler isn't going for the Penta. That's not my Ruler. What is he doing? Why isn't he chasing? And the key thing here, deny the Baron buff on so many people. Genji, yeah, you lose that objective. Who cares? You're playing for the soul anyway. And now Ruler is monstrously fed. And that first Baron, I loved it because you forced so many cooldowns of Genji. But then, why go for it again?
Yeah, you go for it again and you don't have the same amount of control, and the carries are still alive. So yeah, you get those first 2 picks, you win the fight, but you don't actually get the objective. You come back in a second time and you leave yourself wide open. And I mean, this is a beautiful play here from Carrier. Notice, by the way, Ruler is not here. Peanut is instantly deleted, so it's essentially 2 down here, but Peanut survives. And when you come back for the second exchange, he comes over here. But look at Chovy. His stopwatch timing is beautiful. Goes for the re-engage at no health. Look at this. Faker's forced the stopwatch, and that's the only threat. No one can kill Ruler. That's it.
Yeah, that's the quadra kill for Ruler, and that was, if the other one wasn't certified, this one definitely gets the sticker. Absolutely amazing play from this guy. And look, you might be all spamming Zeri and things like this, but this is Ruler. This is his positioning in these team fights. And I was about to say that it is so difficult for Carrier to find these angles, to get these multi-man stuns, but he managed to find it that time around. That was exactly what T1 wanted, and then that re-engage wasn't it.
Well, to me, it's a signal that T1 also felt like they couldn't win that next Drake fight. They're like, we can't give them Infernal Soul. The first play is just a pressure play. If someone gets caught in the back, you force a 5v4 and you get it. Really, really nice. And then they get one of the picks. Peanut has to go back as well. So you're effectively fighting with 2 members up, and they're like, let's try. I think that they felt like they were in a very, very unfortunate situation. And that hasn't really changed. 8 seconds. This Infernal Soul on Azir and Zeri.
It's a stopwatch on the Zeri. She's got 4 items. If you weren't going to win it before, you certainly aren't going to win it now. Unfortunately, here is T1. You've got to try, though. Ornn teleporting in.
Yeah, big teleport here from Zeus. He has the smite at the ready as well. They are definitely dedicated to trying to deny this Infernal Soul. Genji, they don't even really have to worry about it. 2 Infernals, not exactly a huge deal right now.
The Andre's poke, Doran uncontested on the side. T1 can't get control of this. And Chovy's like, I could just push a wave. I don't care. If you guys are going to push bottom, that turret is way less important.
Well, T1's still going to move on over. As Fake, we've got triple smites. We got triple smite on the side of T1 right now. All of these spellbooks have been unsealed, and what's inside these spellbooks is instructions on how to kill dragons. That's all that is written there, but Genji still able to pressure them out, still able to flex those muscles.
Genji said they don't have to 50-50. You got 3 smites. I don't care. You guys start at the Drake. We've got positional advantage here.
Can they actually win the fight before things happen, though, as Ruler stepping forward? Not exactly what you want. That is not the ultimate Carrier was looking for either, as the Ornhorn comes in, doesn't find Ruler, as Doran's diving on in. Still gonna have to get himself out of position once more, and Genji just gonna move back towards this Drake as T1, they dive on forward, it resets and it's secured by Peanut. He only had 1 smite, but it's 1 smite to rule them all as Genji. They will get the Infernal Soul, and this game's looking so difficult for T1.
3-1, Peanut likes those arts. He doesn't care, and thanks to a great initial fight and setup from Genji, utilizing their amazing item advantages, they're able to keep T1 off of the objective, even with a couple of people coming over to try and steal it. It's not enough.
I mean, the truth is, if you watch the positioning here that Genji sets up, the Ornhorn's not great. There's not great turn here. And it doesn't matter if you have all those smites, if you can't get into range to use them. As both Faker and Owner try to dive in and set up for this, they're not able to close the gap. There's no fight without the rest of the team there, and Gen.G just played it so slow, so safe. Say, play around Extendo Beam, play around that Leandri's damage that Chovy has on this Azir. T1 cannot walk into you unless they get a single blow-up target. That's why this pick comp can be strong. Just wasn't in this circumstance.
Well, T1 now have a Sivir that has a Kraken Slayer that's upgraded, as well as the Infinity Edge now completed. So if Gen.G mess up a fight, then they will all die. That is just definitely a thing that's going to happen. This game is still definitely winnable for T1. However, with this Infernal Soul, I mean, the Zeri moments that we are going to be potentially experiencing in the future are definitely going to be difficult to watch if you're a T1 fan.
That's the problem. We've also reached a point where this is Chovy with Deathcap and an Infernal Soul. Just killing Ruler isn't enough anymore. He's been, outside of that one pick, very slippery in his team by positioning. The rest of the team has been playing for this player the entire split. The only team that came even close to rivaling how well they were playing around their bot laner was Sandbox, who, by the way, Gen.G smashed when they faced off.
Yeah, I mean, they smashed them in one game, okay?
I'm not over it, Atlas. I don't want to go back to that.
Chovy's stopwatch play on that Baron fight was really what won it for them, and then now he's soon to buy another Zonius. He doesn't have it here for this one as it spawns in 30, but they have total control of this choke point. They have great wave clear, and if T1 can't get in, can't find a flank angle with Owner here potentially on this Wukong, then Zeri will just have unlimited moments, and they see Owner here. They go over and collapse around him, trying to spot him. He doesn't have a flank angle anymore, and now he's actually just vulnerable.
He definitely is. Lehen's going to be checking these brushes. Ruler finds Owner, and look at the damage as Chovy denies the Warrior Trickster by just Emperor's dividing him in the face.
You have to try to find an angle as the Wukong. You're the one person who can maybe find a flank and set up for that knockup, but you get seen, you die, and now you don't have a smite for this fight. Like, it's not a bad move here from Owner, but he gets caught with his hand in the cookie jar here, and now there's no jungler for T1.
Look at Doran rotating over. Yeah, Doran's flank angle is absolutely fantastic. Ruler just wanting to keep himself safe, but remember, he has GA, he has Mercurial Scimitar, and there is the ult out of Peanut. They're looking for the engage. They don't want to go for any 50-50s as their health bar just melts. He does so much damage. There's the triple kill already. And Gumayusi is going to get flashed on. He does go down to his GA, does Ruler, but Gumayusi, he's running for the hills. And this game, I think, now belongs to Gen.G.
Gonna have to agree with you on that one, Atlas. Guma running for his life here, has a ton of damage, but GA for Doran.
That's a really nice spell shield.
They can push the base.
Yeah. Doran, he has a GA as well. Like, even if he dies, he doesn't care. All he needs to do is make sure Sivir doesn't make it back.
Yeah, well, he's going to try and do so, as there we go. Infernal Chains do connect. Gumayusi goes golden as the Death Dance is doing a fair bit of work, but he does go down to his GA. Gumayushi's just staying here, though, remember? As we move back towards the Baron on Gen.G's side, Doran's still just World Ender, and he's trying to stop Gumayusi from doing anything that he wants. There it is, gives him the old thumbs up as well. And there's the Baron at the same time. Gen.G all but won this game.
And it says a lot about the desperate state of that game. The flank that Owner went for, I agree with you, Wolf. You got to try something at this point. If you don't get that backline, it's not happening. Zeus finds a heroic 3-man knock-up air, does as much as he can, but it doesn't matter anymore. Fullman, excuse me.
It was so well played.
There's no damage.
There's
doesn't
no
matter.
damage. And that's the problem.
Thing.
It's also a problem with Ahri, too. You know, she sets up for flanks really well. She sets up for picks really well. But on this champion, he can't carry. You can't fight the longer fight here against the Fed Zeri's full build, against a Fed Azir.
Well, Owner now running away as they're looking to try and defend this inner turret towards the bottom side. Inhibitor down in the mid lane already. 10,000 gold, the lead for Gen.G. As Ruler is now 12-1-1. I believe that's 2 quadra kills so far this game.
Yeah, he came close to the, no, I think it was a triple in the end, and he came close to an unofficial penta because of the Chovy scoop, right? So he killed Wukong, but then Doran
so he
stole
did
his
kill
kill.
all 5 of them, basically. All right, not too bad. As T1, this is a very difficult defense. However, they do have wave clear. They have Sivir, synonymous with that word, absolutely. As now Doran looking for some opportunities, but Umbral Dash will get him over that wall just fine.
I mean, look at the wave clear they have. They could just set up here, and T1 eventually will get worn down. Flank angle for Owner, not great. They have ward coverage here. There's no vision.
Yeah, they do. The war of attrition just going to be won here by Gen.G. They'll take this inhibitor. Elder Drake going to be spawning in 30 seconds time, but Gen G still have so much control of this base. They're still looking to push. Want to deny T1 any sort of access. Oh my god, that is 50% of Gumiyushi's health with one extendo beam. Zeri, we talk about Zeri's being online and things like this. This is like out of control from Ruler this point in the game. And still has shoes though.
And even with, like, there's so much CC that could potentially lock him down, but it can't get to him. They can't actually connect it, so it doesn't matter.
There's so much peel. There's so much front line between Doran, between Peanut, and even Chovy with his ultimate. I don't think you're getting to that Elder. They gotta try, but what can you do?
It's a late Ornhorn. Zeus going to use it for disengage now. Gen G just avoid it. And now with Exodia complete, Gen G are bearing down on the base once again. Teleport to come forward as Chovy just bought a bunch more items. And this is all over, but the Nexus is what it feels like at this point in time. T1 are going to need something absolutely heroic to make this one work. The flash from Faker is not going to be enough, as Chovy has one of those as well. Uses it in order to get himself out of the way. Once again, these minions are getting obliterated.
Yeah, 15 seconds on Baron. If they can defend this, maybe there's a world.
Maybe. But there's still an Elder Drake here, remember, as Wild Growth come through for the chain CC. But Peanut, he's also going to get CC'd up. These Nexus turrets, they just don't last, though. As Ruler throws in the ultimate, he's doing so much damage already. Emperor's Device going to deny any sort of re-engage. The knock-up is okay, but it's another double kill. Make it a triple, make it a quadra. And Gumiyushi wants to do everything to deny this pentakill, but it will not happen, at least for now, because the Nexus is going to fall. Gen G, they will take game one in this best of 5.
It was the perfect game one for a series like this, though. We saw both teams play standard. We got to see no pocket picks, just the Ruler Zeri, Sivir coming in for Guma, the person who played the pick first. Standard games here. Faker plays the Ahri, prioritizes that one, but can't find the success, can't find the picks in the team fights. And it was really Ruler getting fed at that critical junction that ruined T1's chances of ever coming back.
He almost got a quadra kill.
He didn't even have Yuumi.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to go 16-1 if you don't have Yuumi.
And that was the kind of point we're making going into this game, is he gets to prove himself on this area without the Yuumi here in game one. And how much more could he have proven himself? Like, how much better of a game could he have had?
Yeah.
It's really difficult to do better than that, gentlemen. Maybe getting at least one of the pentakills possibly could have been an angle there, but if we get a full series of this, I'm not going to be super psyched about it, to be perfectly honest. So hoping that we do see some Zeri bans to come through. Of course, T1, they can choose the blue side yet again, so maybe it's going to be just an attempt to run it back with some slight adjustments moving into that one. Remember, the first pick was indeed the Sivir, so they could go for a different angle potentially.
But what? That's my core problem. Maybe Azir is the one adjustment that I think they can make. But then you give Sivir over to Ruler. That also sounds horrible. Because you have to throw bans towards Yuumi. Can't pick that because of Singe. Throw bans over to Poppy. Can't pick that because of Morgana. Like, what do you even do?
I think you really have to be looking at which one of these two picks is a problem, right? If we're talking about changes, is it the Zeri or is it the Poppy? Because the Poppy has created a lot of problems in the bottom 2v2, but when they're banning Nautilus, Gen G's plan is quite clear, right? Keria has been amazing on the Nautilus, but you know they want to take the Zeri. You know they're confident with it, even with the Yuumi ban. And I think the bans have to change here. And you don't want to give Poppy to Peanut, but you definitely don't want to give Ruler Zeri in this meta.
Yeah, and looking at this graph right here, it tells the story of exactly what you asked of T1 earlier on, Chronicler, and that was, can Owner and Faker cause enough of a ruckus to make this mid-game tolerable for them to be able to get to that late-game Civil win condition? And the answer in this game, especially judging on that, was definitely not it. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a best of 5. Still multiple opportunities for T1 to come back into this series. We're going to go to a short break. After that, we'll hear from the analysts and get into game 2.
봐. 아리궁 끝나. 아리궁 있어. 무조건 한 번 더 던진다. 이거 나 볼게 얘들아. 오른.
위타.
아. 오른 높여. 얘들아 나 물었다 봐줘. 50 초식에 있어. 나이스. 깨면서 무조건 선 봐야 돼 얘들아. 50 먼저. 50 먼저. 선 봐. 야 오른 끝났어.
펜타.
주던지.
펜타. 야, 펜타.
가자. 야 펜타 가자.
완전히 펜타
줘야지.
야, 광해사
오늘 끝나고 뭐 먹지?
빨리 끝나면 맛있는 거 먹자.
밥 먹고 싶다.
고기 먹으러 가자, 고기.
빨리 끝나면 고기 좋지.
아, 오늘 혹시 얼마나 걸리나요?
안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. 안녕하세요.
오늘 야근하겠네.
더 꽉 찬 결승전을 위해 우리가 왔다.
꽉뺀
짠! 항상 이렇게 6세트를 만드는데 같이 일조를 하긴 했지만
네.
이렇게 또 프로그램 같이 하는 건 처음이잖아요.
그러니까 저는
네.
수빈 씨 얼굴만 봐도 워라벨이 깨지는 것 같아서 참 피곤합니다.
아, 지금 이게 약간 우리 마음의 거리가 아닌가.
적당한 거리예요.
게스트 소개해드리겠습니다. 2022 LCK 스프링 전승 우승, V10 달성에 이어 LCK 최초 매치 24연승 달성, 세 번째 3연속 결승 진출, LCK 11번째 우승을 노리는 T1입니다.
반가워요. 오늘 짧게 안 갑니다. 네. 결승전에는 또다시 이제 돌고 돌아 젠지를 다시 만나게 됐는데 T1에게서 젠지는 좀 어떤 느낌일지도 궁금하거든요.
좀 다시 만나게 돼서 좀 정겹고 되게 반가운 것 같습니다.
저는 좀 지겹다?
이게 맞을 것 같아요.
가장 많이 만난 선수가 또 계시잖아요.
젠지의 피넛 선수가 또 저랑 같이 뛰었었던 선수잖아요. 근데 이번에 또 혼내주고 싶습니다.
더 꽉 차고 알찬 결승전이 되기를 바라면서 유키 많이 맞추시면 상품이 또 있어요. 고기 6이잖아요. 그래가지고 저희가 소고기를 준비했어요.
리액션 좋아. 꽉 찬 리액션 좋아요. 첫 번째 문제. 다음 스킬 이미지를 보고 챔피언 이름을 적으시면 되겠습니다.
이거 그 스킬 이름까지 맞춰야 되는 거 아닙니까?
스킬 이름까지 해주세요. 한 명씩 저희가 볼게요. 제우스 선수부터 공개해주세요.
이달리와 이제 최고의
약간 미세 조정은 필요하지만 정답은 정답이에요. 저기 아마 최고의 생명력인가 그럴걸요?
실패는 아니긴 해.
뭐야? 부족은 아니야? 스페 부족은 그거잖아. TFT잖아. TFT 얼마나 거야?
그래야 돼. 자, 아무튼 니달리. 그리고 여기서 자신 있어
최고의
하면
생명력.
정답. 역시 살아있는 역사.
이게 나야.
니달리.
이렇게 보니까 스킬 이름 아는 거랑 게임 실력이랑은 아무 상관이 없는 것 같다.
그죠? 아무 상관없죠. 가운데 분 있다고 말하고 있는 것 같아요. 눈빛으로. 자, 그래서 니달리가 이제 등장하지 못했는데 원호 선수가 맨날 올려두잖아요. 결승 때 나올 수 있는 겁니까? 어때요?
뭐 각이 나온다면 할 수는 있겠지만
펜타 뺏었잖아.
야 펜타. 펜타 줘봐.
소리. 감사합니다.
다음 문제 드릴게요. T1과 젠지의 1라운드 3세트 뱀픽입니다. 이 경기를 승리하면서 페이커 선수는 LCK 최초 땡땡땡을 기록했는데요. 어떤 기록일까요?
쉽다 이거는. 아닌가? 뭔 기록이냐?
이건 알아야지. 서운하겠다.
제가 인터뷰했잖아요. 인터뷰 때도 말씀드렸는데. 5초 드릴게요.
고를 게 너무 많나 봐.
하나, 둘, 셋.
3,000킬?
다 틀렸어.
500점. 다 달라? 500승은 뭐야? 500승 아니야? 600점이야? 나 600점 아니었어? 500승 아니면 4,000원씩.
이거는 LCK 최초 500승입니다.
500승?
왜 5,000년? 500승이에요.
제우스 선수 근데 왜 고치신 거예요?
나 이거 생각보다 더 오래된 거 같아가지고 스프링인 줄 알고 4,000원씩으로 바꿨는데
4,000원씩을 내가 했어?
그거는 잘 모르겠어요.
너무 많아가지고 기억이 잘 안 나네요.
그러면은 가장 의미 있다고 생각하는 기록이 하나 있을까요?
첫 번째 킬 아닐까요?
그것도 제가 또 생방송을 봤는데 기가 막히긴 했습니다, 그게.
영상 나와야겠다, 영상. 태고의 생명력 딱 쓰면서.
그때 저도 진짜 소름 돋았어요.
다음은 구마유시 어록이라고 검색하면 나오는 어록들입니다. 이 땡땡 5가지를 모두 맞춰주시면 됩니다.
야, 진짜 주옥 같은 멘트들이다, 정말.
쉽다, 쉬워.
쉽다 쉬워. 구마유시 팬이면 이거 다 알아.
다 유명한 말들.
공개하겠습니다. 하나, 둘, 셋.
잘한다.
잠깐만. 페이커 선수.
시기는 뭐야?
너 개그 욕심 그랬지, 지금.
형거 욕고 있잖아.
시계 왜? 나야?
얘는 뭐야?
언제 말할 거야, 저걸?
누구한테 말
몰라?
룰러 형 이기고.
플레이오프 이기고 나서 그 인터뷰에서도 룰러 선수한테 룰러 형 또 나야 강래에서 하셨잖아요.
네. 그냥 자주 만나니까
진짜
룰러 형
다시
입장에서도
보자고.
뭔가 지긋지긋하겠다 싶어.
자, 이렇게 해서 유퀴즈 온더 파이널 오늘 좋은 기운 그대로 결승까지 가지고 가시라고 저희가 소고기 선물 드리겠습니다. 페이커 선수께 대표로 드릴게요.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.
육수빈의 소고기.
와. 그러면 끝으로 T1의 11번째 우승을 향한 각오 들어보겠습니다.
제가 데뷔하고 나서 이제 여름 동안 계속 결승전 왔었는데 다 준우승해가지고 이번에는 우승해보도록 하겠습니다.
스프링 우승했을 때 기분이 또 짜릿하고 파이널 MVP를 받아서 기분이 좋았는데 이번 썸머에도 MVP까지 한번 받아보도록 하겠습니다.
고기 먹고 화이팅 하겠습니다.
T1
화이팅!
그 자체만이 목표인 여행을 시작했다.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to the LCK Summer Finals for 2022. It's me, Valdez, joined by Rush, of course, here on the analyst carpet space and nice LCK thing. We just had a pretty big banger of a first game. It was Ruler coming out and smacking them down with the Zeri. Rush, what were your thoughts on that first one?
Genji just won the most important game one, especially on red side. And I think both teams picked their favorite champions, but T1 had more likely of like playmaking champions, and Genji had more DPS champions. And Genji won this one, so like game 2 will be more exciting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it was pretty interesting to see, you know, the Sivir versus Yuumi battle, but not Yuumi, but Zeri battle, of course, and the fact that Yuumi did get banned, which is something you were calling for in the beginning as well. But yeah, pretty standard drafts across the board. Was there any pick that surprised you at all?
So like this time, Genji played with Zeri, with Enchanter Lulu, and T1 played Sivir with Amumu, which is like known Enchanter playmaker support. So I think like from game 2, maybe like they're gonna like change the plan, and I wanna see what's their choice.
Yeah, definitely could be a nice option. Guys, let's take a look at highlight number 1 here because we kind of gotta go fast with this one, understandably. This was all of T1 trying to make a play here. They stole the dragon, and everybody kind of went into the dragon pit. And what went wrong for T1 in this fight, Rush?
So like they've invested all the spells and ultimates on 2 tanks on Genji side, and Amumu late engaged on the carries, but I don't think like T1 had enough damage to kill or follow up, so it like messed up second engage, I guess.
Yeah, it was pretty clear that, you know, everything was used. They got into the pit. It was not enough to just kill Peanut or something like that. So let's take a look at highlight number 2 as well, which is the fight that we did have on the Baron, which was essentially, you know, we had a triple kill in the first fight. We had a quadra kill in the second fight, although Ruler was denied a penta in this one multiple times, Rush.
Yes, he had like 2 chances, like on the Nash Pete and under the Fountain.
Yeah.
But it's like game 1 quadra, maybe game 2 penta.
Yeah, and this is where he was not able to pull up the penta, but again, similar thing. You know, we had the Amumu engage earlier on. Amumu did not have ult. Faker misses the charm. And after this happens, Ruler just gets to do whatever he wants.
Yes, like it was even like 4v5, but T1 did not really have like ultimates, so like they didn't have enough damage to stop Ruler smurfing here. So like Ruler did like 3 damage and he got a quadra and almost penta.
Yeah, and you know, the first highlight was the official Zeri moment. This one was, again, just Zeri doing crazy things. And this is why, you know, we were talking about some of the draft stuff. They don't have a lot of hard lockdown outside of the Amumu. We did see the early QSS from the Zeri purchased by Ruler as well. And he was essentially never able to be dealt with. So what do you want to see different going into game 2 from T1?
I think like this time Genji had like longer range comp and DPS comp and had enchanter support. And maybe like this time T1 is gonna try the same plan like that Genji took. So let's see.
Yeah, let's see. And that was a very dominant victory from Gen G. We'll see if they can pull it off again, or will T1 get the revenge? Let's jump into game number 2.
Thank you so much, Valdez and Rush, of course, for the breakdown of game number 1. That was definitely very Gen G-sided, gentlemen, but game number 2 is a brand new game. We'll see whether T1 can make it more competitive and bring this series to that 1-1 that we all want.
I don't see what's so hard. Just Ben Zeri, Poppy, Kalista, Lucian, Sivir, and Yumi. I don't see the problem. Don't give any of those to Gen G.
Yeah, and also get the Ahri, the Azir. You know, you have to play both Faker at the same time to make sure Chovy doesn't get the other one.
Ah, that's a good call. Okay, well, I guess if we tick all of those boxes, everything should be okay. T1 are going to select blue side once again here, and we'll see how much these drafts are going to be the same, because we have seen a few of the salty runbacks here, as we do get a lot of repeated side selections. So T1, they might be opting in for something like that. We saw for, I believe it was Live Sandbox, after the 0-9 Renekton incident, they decided to go with exactly the same thing again, and it worked out the next time. So maybe that's what we're going to see.
I think that the biggest change here in draft needs to be figuring out how to deal with this area, or going for basically switching up completely like Rush was suggesting and playing Genji's comp they played in game 1, essentially with whatever pieces you can get. First picking the Azir, another option, taking the Zeri when the Nautilus ban is taken away, you know, because they made sure, as, you know, Gen G, on red side, they're like, okay, no Nautilus, we're going to pick the Zeri. Maybe then you take the Zeri yourselves, but it puts a lot more pressure, a lot more onus on Gumayusi, who hasn't been performing up to standard.
Well, so far, as we hop into pick and ban here for game number 2, the Poppy is going to remain the same. Nautilus, the same thing as well. So far, so good as far as that run back is concerned. And Lucian will continue that trend.
My only expectation of the initial switch up for T1 will be that the Azir is going to be denied to the mid laner of Gen G. Azir, a pick that Chovy can both. Okay, they're going to ban it instead. I was expecting a first pick. Might now just be an Ahri first pick here with the Azir being taken off the board. Yumi, Seri are both open.
Oh, yeah, you have to pick one of them as T1, but then you give the Ahri.
Yeah.
And it's like, Genji was so prepared for this moment. Like, they knew that, okay, yeah, you're going to ban the Azir, we're going to change the way this draft looks. And now, the problem is now, do you want to pick the Zeri here into the Yumi as Gen G? You can get the Ahri Vi. We haven't seen that yet this series, obviously, but still a lot of lockdown even against Yumi Zeri. I think that if you let Yumi Zeri go through, though, you're going to hear a big groan throughout the crowd.
I mean, it all does depend on what Gen G's plan is here for the bottom side. So far, Neela is going to be the choice. for Ruler. Not necessarily our premier Neela player, but we know that he has certainly been experimenting with it. Silas will be locked in as well here for Chovy. Expecting something like an Ari here to come through from T1's side, but that Zeri needs to be picked up first.
Can't believe we're saying this, but I would not be surprised if Gen.G put priority on the Singed pick here in
100%, yeah.
in R3. Otherwise, it's 100% going to get banned away. And gonna be honest, I don't know how good a Neela Singed lane is. I guess Singed gets more XP, which is nice. It's not the greatest in terms of actually assisting his teammate, but that has been the answer for Lehends. The reason why we have seen Gen.G just always leave open Yuumi.
And what's so interesting about this too is I think it plays towards Ruler's more multifaceted strengths. His laning has been amazing, but his late game has been amazing, even on picks like the Lucian. So we'll see the Renekton come through here in the first phase. But for Guma, he hasn't been able to...
Yeah, there it is.
And for Guma, he hasn't been able to say the same thing, right? He's had a bit of a weaker laning phase. His late game has been fine, but he often doesn't get there on even footing with his lane opponents against strong teams like Gen.G. So this puts a lot of risk here in T1's composition. They have to have a smooth sail through that laning phase, and you can't take away the Singed. There's too many things to ban.
No, exactly right. And I think we need to update everyone, because if you've just come in, I'll just check out the LCK final, see how it's going. I've experienced a lot of League of Legends around the world. I expect what happens in drafts. I know exactly what's going on. You see Singed and you get very confused. So Lehends was a Singed one trick, basically, before he joined Griffin all those moons ago, and Elise as well, often in support or in top lane. Singed is just the Lehends special. He uses it into Yuumi, and he is 100% win rate on this champion so far throughout his career. So looking forward to seeing whether Gen.G can keep that one the same way, or whether T1 have a plan into the Singed this time.
Well, we also see T1 realizing the same fake that Gen.G did. This time around, no jungler has been picked. Arthur Wukong is a complete no-brainer here for Gen.G with the Trundle ban. Very, very obvious that Peanut wants to pick that one up. And that leaves, again, the counter pick to Doran. Alternatively, as Gen.G, because you already know what you're playing into with that Renekton, can also just pick up the Aatrox. I wonder if that's going to be the ban here, but it will be the Wukong instead, meaning that I'm expecting maybe a Sejuani pickup.
Yeah,
Sejuani can also be a sign of that.
Yep. Is Sejuani obviously going to be flexible too? You know, if you pick it here in R4, so you can, you know, move it into the jungle, and then if you want to have a hidden jungle pick that comes through once you see the rest of T1's draft, you could flex it, of course, towards the top side of the map. It also gives you really strong engage options here as Gen.G, because, you know, Wukong is amazing because you essentially have a comp that wants to run in. It's a dive comp. And Sejuani still does it, a little bit more budget, a little bit less committal, but it gets set up for the Neela ult, gets set up for Singed to do a ton of damage, lock down that Zeri.
Well, we'll see whether it is going to work out here, as Morgana is going to be the choice. Ona likely the one piloting that one, although, you know, of course, Faker is no stranger to Morgana in the mid lane. There's the Fiora being considered, but this is blind, remember, for T1, moving towards the mid lane or top lane. Depending on where this is going. So, Renekton, of course, a flex into mid if you would like to put it there. Often is something that we've seen picked into Silas in the past.
So what you get here as T1 is you have two lanes with setup for Dark Binding. Gonna be the Gnar instead, and with that Gnar, I was expecting Faker to be like, I can play Jax mid, that's no problem at all. With the Gnar, don't think that's happening. Zeus is his best champion, I'd personally argue. And now with Gen.G, you can just flex that Sejuani up towards top lane.
Yeah,
Make something here for Peanut.
I mean, you can even go Viego here in this draft. It feels strong. I mean, the ways that Gen.G can operate this, you could also go Aatrox here. You could have gone Camille into the Gnar and say, you know, I'm going to just win this super hard. It's just Gen.G going back to bread and butter. They don't really have to show anything here. In a normal scenario, Lehends playing Singed support or any other support, you're like, wow, you can only do this once in a best of 5. For Lehends, this is standard. This is normal. Chovy's playing Silas, Peanut's on Sejuani again. Gen.G's like, cool, it's just an adaptation of our draft that we played last game into a different AD carry, but we have a little bit more engage power this time around. It's not the same long-term damage that we saw from them in Game 1. It's all in, hard engage, blow up the Zeri.
But it is sort of the opposite of what Rush was talking about as far as what T1's draft had in game number 1 compared to this one. Now they have the Enchanter support. Now they have the range advantage, most importantly, and Gen.G are the ones with all the onus on them on making these fights happen.
Gen.G have no range. There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's Singed, Silas, Sejuani, and Aatrox The only range you have is Sejuani throwing an ultimate. So topside skirmishes need to be good. If you snowball with this comp as Gen G, you completely run them over. But you do have to snowball, because if not, I don't think you have what it takes to take down Zeri Yuumi later in the game.
We've also seen Damwon Kia pilot a very similar Morgana composition into this style of drafting we saw from Gen G. It went very poorly for them in the mid game, but they were able to, with a good binding, turn that one around. If you guys remember that series back from playoffs. Now, we'll see this time around if T1 can pull it off, because this feels like a draft that's going to be about Zeri lives, they win, Zeri die, they lose, and there's so much peel for her, but Guma will actually have to carry. He will actually have to perform here for them to tie up this series.
He has done it before. They did manage to, off the back of a lot of great play from Gumayushi against Damwon Kia, make it here to Konglun. That is one of the reasons why they managed to do so. It was to do with that Zeri. Let's do it. Let's get into game number 2 of the 2022 Summer Final. Genji? Genji fans? No?
Good old fan leader drama, you know? Who knows who starts it?
I didn't know. Are we even allowed to start commentating? I don't even know whether we're allowed
This
to. I
feels
think
wrong.
we need to wait.
Yeah, I don't like this.
No, I'm very confused. However, I think T1 fans makes a lot of sense that they're the ones that get the fan cheer and not Gen G, because we want to make sure that we get as many games in this final as possible. And I believe that based on these drafts, we are going to 1-1. That is what I'm feeling straight out the gate. Gentlemen, do you share the sentiment or no?
I do like T1's draft better, but I think that this is an extremely volatile set of drafts, the two of them. It's all based on execution. It's so difficult to say one draft is better than the other because of how strong Gen G's draft is if executed perfectly, but also how strong T1's draft is against Gen G. And I think if T1 lose this game, we might have a 3-0 on our hands, because you got everything you wanted this time around. You have the right answers to Gen G's comp, but if you still lose here, Gen G still outdo you, out-execute you. I mean, how do you come back from that 0-2?
Well, Gen G 2-0. So let's talk about the rune setup that we have here, because there's actually a lot of interesting summoners and runes. First and foremost, Doran has gone for the Comet variation of Aatrox, which into a Gnar, I think actually does make a lot of sense. Gets you a ton more laning power. When we get the full rune setup, expect to see something like a Scorch there as well, just to really try and mitigate the pressure that the Gnar has. Chovy going for the first strike variation of Sylas, so trying to both maximize his burst, and it's playing into a melee matchup, so I think you get a lot more value as Peanut.
Yeah, going in aggressively as Faker already down to 300 health. The permafrost will come in. There's the flash, but the follow's there, and Chovy gets his revenge, and this game he'll pick up first blood.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that 2-0 confidence from
No, don't bet down.
There was no analysis whatsoever.
Right.
It was just 2-0.
So I think that when you consider also the fact that now this Sylas, who did take first strike, as you were leading into, gets a first blood under his belt, 400 extra gold, pulls Faker out of lane, gets his teleport early. This could be a disaster for how this laning phase is going to go as the Sylas gets stronger. And Chovy, he still holds on to his teleport here to get a better back.
Yeah, getting an early kill and forcing the flash out of Faker. Very, very big. Also makes a possible early skirmish a lot less threatening when you don't have the point and click CC for the Renekton. As wondering as we see, the Peanut setup, because Peanut actually has been, as mentioned previously, really good about the way that he's been finding these early moments, finding these early ganks, and I haven't really talked about the end of the draft, but Sejuani, even into a Morgana, which in teamfights can be very debilitating because of how slow the permafrost actually comes through and Glacial Prison lose a lot of power. When you're still in laning phase and Morgana's trying to just farm up, it's so incredibly strong. And with both the setup that you have, because you have 4 melees, everyone enables permafrost. So the reason why I have a lot of faith in Gen G is because I think T1's never going to be actually allowed to play this game. I have a tough time seeing it. Ruler also going for the cleanse, very good defensive option into things like bindings and all the point and click CC that's available for T1.
Yeah, no flash actually available here from Ruler, so definitely very committed to making sure that he can just stay in amongst the fight, understanding that positioning is key.
Exchanges,
Got to do it.
exchanges like the ones we saw there with the early gank from Peanut, you know, are pretty predictable as okay owner.
Yeah, around the side here as he is going to spot Chovy. Chovy sees him. Let's see whether the Dark Binding will connect. Right now, Aatrox with control, and yeah, Chovy will be able to sidestep Dark Binding. Mind games complete, and won there by Chovy this time.
The way that this goes wrong for T1, I think, is falling too far behind too early, right? And we know how these two drafts interact in terms of the way there's a front line for this Zeri. This Ward will spot Peanut. Still could commit to the dive.
Not going to go for it this time, but Lehens, he's running real quick. Doesn't have Ghost or anything like that, but Gumayusi's going to Ghost himself. And so that means just by looking menacing, Len's going to be able to pick that one up. And this is what we were talking about, 4-0 right now on the Singed. Len's just pretty good at it.
Not again.
Going to look for a return gank here onto Faker. More Permafrost to come in, but they do just back away. Faker getting to relative safety, I guess, and also not knowing exactly where Owner was waiting.
Yeah, and I think that the way that, like, the draft works out here for T1, I think was so based on a hard pivot, right? A Faker saying, I could play this Renekton as Peanut is not done.
Yep, he's coming back. Lehen's going to throw down the Mega Adhesive. Faker's slicing, he's dicing, he's trying to get out, but Owner wasn't even allowed to Black Shield him. He couldn't get close enough, and Faker is going to be dead again.
And the point I'm trying to make here is just being illustrated repeatedly while I'm trying to make
interrupted, making your point by your point being made.
Yeah, exactly. You're playing into the Sylas melee here with the Sejuani. This is what you were saying earlier, Chronicler, about how strong this duo is together. And I think as Faker, ideally here, you'd want to play something with a little bit more lane pile, a little bit more control, but you're playing into the Sejuani, and the Morgana is a binding binary. Should she hit it? Does she not? That's your end result, whereas Sejuani, no flash on the Renekton, you can keep coming back for more. And as a result, Faker is finding himself falling further and further behind.
And a lot of this comes down just to how incredibly well Peanut is able to be ahead of all these plays. Because, like, turn it the other way around. If Chovy gets hit while he's not in the wave with a stun, he dies. Like, there's a Renekton stun, there's a binding, and you're gone. There is no counterplay, but because every single time that this happens, it's Gen G that is on the front foot, right? It's Gen G setting up the play. They have a man advantage, so what you're going to do. Lance, level 5, by the way. Thank you for that, Neela. Definitely a necessary part of the kit, as 2-0 on the Sylas is Chovy already, and this is a pick where if you can just coast until like level 11, you're perfectly happy.
They had the wraparound there too on the Singed. He avoided the control ward.
Well, speaking about wraparounds, there's the flash from Lehens. Ruler going to be diving forward. That is not the Glacial Prison you're looking for there, Peanut, but Ruler now does have that Apotheosis available. Gumayusi's going to go down, and now Carrier is a cat with a book, but no friends. And that's a double kill as Ruler. How many multi-kills has he got this series? We're not even like a bit of the way into game 2 yet.
And I was worried this was going to happen. I didn't quite expect it to like this pace. I was thinking it's going to be around a Herald fight, was going to be maybe around an early Dragon, but Gen G is absolutely decimating this early game.
It's crazy how much value Peanut has had across the map. He takes Flash away from Faker early, grabs that kill, comes back for a second pass, gets the second kill, comes down here bottom side, helps set up for double. Ruler's grabbing plate gold. Solo, plus 160. I mean, this could not be a bigger lead for Gen G right now with a composition that is so snowbally. As he just hits this max range, flashes in, tosses him back. Guess who's here? Peanut, level 6, doesn't hit his ult. Doesn't matter, Guma has no way out. And it's because of Yuumi. Ah, he misses this as well on the wall. And with the Yuumi here, it's just a double.
Yeah, the Apotheosis actually pulling him out of the Jet Set Radio future. So a little bit of a shame there for Gumayusi.
Level 6, I mean, that's your experience advantage.
100%. So now, Gen G, it's all about just pushing this advantage ever further. Close to 2,000 gold, but that's pretty decent here at close to 9 minutes into the game, and Peanut is going to look to extend that even further by taking this Rift Herald.
Also see Doran going for the Eclipse build, so assuming it needs to be Eclipse, Cyril does, Black Cleaver. As Lehens, only has Axe Flash, but even with Axe Flash, that cinch is terrifying, and we're seeing happening right in front of our eyes why no one is there to pick Yuumi against Gen G, and it feels like a lose-lose. You ban Yuumi, and you don't get it, or you pick it, and then it's doomed.
Yeah, and I just want to defend my prediction, right? Because we see Zeri Yumis so often, and they just win. This Zeri Yumi also has a Morgana as well. So it's like, how are you ever going to kill the Zeri in the late game? What I didn't realize, gentlemen, that obviously the smarter men, who are the analysts on this test, should have understood, is that sometimes you're just not allowed to play a late game. And that's exactly what you were talking about.
Look at the
Faker,
leads.
oh dear. This is a bit dangerous, but yeah, you can see the gold is already so far in their favor. Okay, final chapter's going to come through. There's the flash out from Chovy. Faker is still very, very low. But T1 not going to be able to find that. They do get a lot of summoner spells, and by a lot I mean just Chovy's flash, but it's still very important.
Peanut is everywhere and Owner is nowhere. He has saved now Chovy after being 100% kill contribution in both the kills on Faker, the bottom kills as well. He is the brains of the operation. Peanut has been so good at this, and unfortunately Morgana, that is going to be a counter pick here, relies on smart pathing, and Owner just has not been able to keep up with Peanut this game. And as it snowballs away, obviously it gets harder and harder to keep up with the tempo.
Oh, no, no, no. Okay, they spot him. That's good. At the very least, but
I mean, you're potentially going to get dove. Morgana has to come over.
Yeah, has to cover. And this is what keeps you on the back foot. As Peanut now moving away. Faker, they have an inkling.
Yeah, there are a lot of pings. T1 know exactly what's going on, but can they stop it is going to be the question. Faker has his flash available, but there is the Everfrost to stun to come through. Faker still should be all right, but another chain is going to land. Dominance is going to come through, and now Gen G are just chasing after the Crocodile. They are bullying the T1 mid lane. A Mega Adhesive. Lance just says that's enough, and he books it out of there. And in the meantime, Shelly smacks down the turret.
I mean, you, as Owner here, you were pathing bottom because you saw the Sejuani. Zeus going to have to get over the wall here.
Will the chains connect?
Oh,
They
man.
barely even needed to, as Doran's just going to pick up that kill. Flashes over the wall. And that is going to be that, and Gen G are steamrolling this game.
Yeah, I mean, Peanut, he shows bottom. Owner has to come down. He's coming over. Oh, God, this is just done.
Oh, dear, they get the bad news. He's in the sky, gets flicked back. There's the Glacial Prison. The setup's beautiful. The binding doesn't connect. The ulti does come through, though, and there is a skate away here for Gumayusi, so he'll survive. But at what cost?
But who cares? Like, he has to use summoners, heal, exhaust, thrown away. Gen G gonna pick himself up a second Drake. Blades are dropping. And as I said, I don't think we're ever getting to a point where Zeri Yumi gets to do their thing.
Yeah. Well, I certainly don't think we are now. That is for sure. I mean, the fact of the matter is, look at where Owner is. He path bottom. Peanut leaves. He's on Krugs because he's like, all right, well, I don't know what's going on here. Faker has to path topside because he knows his jungler isn't here. So even having Flash isn't going to save him in this moment. Adhesive comes down, he's dead. And, like, he's just been left alone, as is Zeus here. Again, Owner bottom side during this.
Yeah, we can see already they had to invest the final chapter. You can see picture in picture. But this is what happened to start off the troubles here for Zeus as he hits Minina. He's at half health, and Gen G have him exactly where they want him.
And Owner's just trying to hold wave mid because Faker's dead. Everybody's dead. There's no control whatsoever. This is a stomp.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in situations like this, these one-item spikes from Gen G are absolutely disgusting. Like early Eclipse. It's the reason why Doran is able to chunk Zeus the way he does. And Zeus, he's just desperately trying to create some pressure on the map because everywhere else is a pure disaster. One plate still alive on mid. I don't even want to talk about the bot lane because it's even more rough. And then the top lane is, as far as things go for T1, the best situation, but still very bad. It's another Infernal, and as Gen G, do you think T1's going to be able to contest the next two Drakes?
I don't know. Maybe the best news for T1 is that this game might be over before a soul is even a question mark.
Maybe it's Elder Flip. Maybe that's where we do it.
Well, perhaps. But Zeus is now going to take a lot of damage here from Doran. Offers a bit back, as you could see. As Peanut completes the Sunfire Cape.
This comp is so win more when it's ahead with the advantages Ruler has in terms of experience too, plus the items, has his early Immortal Shield Bow. And, like, you can't contest Drakes as T1. You can't actually make cross-map plays. You just have to hope for scaling. But as you're saying, I don't think that fight ever comes. I don't think those items ever come because Gen G will take all the vision off. They will just keep pushing these waves in, take away the turrets, and then you can't even farm a Zeri freely.
Outside of Peanut, no one on Gen G as a title. Well, Bruno does, but not the title he really
A
wants.
little bit more international.
Yeah, and that is such a mind-blowing thing. And I personally was expecting there to be at least some form of pressure, seemingly, on Gen G coming into a match where they're so clearly the favorite after the split that they've had. But in this game number 2, I'm not feeling any pressure. I think you're feeling fine. I think you're having a great time right now. And for T1, when the game is this boomed, it is so hard to play because any of your fights, you're going to be working with such a massive item disadvantage that you need to be like 3 people up if you want it to work, but you have no vision. Look at that jungle.
This is also the mental drain game. Like, this is the game where you lost game 1. It was pretty close until it wasn't, right? Until we had those Zeri moments, but it was a fairly close game where we could have conversations about the state of things. Instead of watching Rift Herald spawn onto Gen G, who have so much control, they just take it instantly. They're speedrunning this game. But you have to try to survive and bring something back 6,000 gold down at 15 minutes in, going into a second game of the series. It's draining your mental this entire time. You're losing control of, like, can we beat them in any games? Like, we can't beat them on blue side. We had 2 blue side games in a row. Like, this is actually how teams get 3-0'd, especially with teams with young players. And, I mean, we're not trying to write the eulogy early, but it is really looking rough for T1 here.
I mean, I'm down to ride it for this game, 100%. I'm not riding it for the series, but this game is looking all but over. It's a 6.5 thousand gold lead at not even 16 minutes yet into this game. We have 1 minute until Infernal Soul Point available for Gen G. And yes, look, there is a Yuumi and a Zeri and a Morgana on the other side. Like, theoretically, if there's a way for T1 to somehow make it to 3 items on Zeri, maybe they can do it. But Doran's just flashing on top of Zeus here. Now Zeus able to offer a few boomerangs back, but still, summon a spell advantage actually for Zeus.
Zeus's movement is insane there. The fact that he doesn't die, well, he might still because of the hands, but the fact that he doesn't die in that 1v1 is super impressive. But it also ties into what was my fear coming into the series. That's the one edge you have. Like, Zeus still looks great, but also...
But also Doran's playing Aatrox.
Yeah, and
again.
And also, who cares? Like,
and
there's just not a lot going right. And I don't really see a conceivable way for... If this was a Cloud or an Ocean Soul, then maybe, but it's Infernal.
Well, Trophy's going for a bit of a dive here. Owner in great position right now, but the turret is just going to fall down. Mega Adhesive to come through. No Black Shield was available, but Owner does have enough distance. He'll make it out.
I think that the problem with this draft for T1, I mean, besides the Renekton, is that the Morgana doesn't play to Owner's strengths at all. That's the first time he's been there for his team with these dives happening. He hasn't otherwise been able to match Peanut's tempo at all. There's no turret, so he doesn't end up making a big play or anything like that. But, you know, Morgana is one of those champions, not really a hands champion. Do you hit the binding? Do you press W? When you press R in the team fight, did it work? Are you not behind enough to where that actually means something? Because in this game, it absolutely does not. And Peanut has just been gapping him super hard here. He had 100% kill contribution for a majority of this game, and
yeah,
you can feel the brain at work here of Gen G, how clearly they drafted this composition.
Yep, not to mention the fact that, I mean, this was clearly something that T1 had planned out, but it's also now into Sylas as well, which is something that we hadn't even really thought about that much, because you see Na for Zeus and you're like, oh, it makes sense, it's absolutely fine, but we can be critical of that pick as well, just a little bit. However, I don't even think it's going to be any kind of...
oh, it doesn't matter at all.
Like, it's just not relevant, even in the slightest.
What I can't wait for is Game 3, where Singed actually gets banned. They first pick Yuumi, and Lahans pulls out the Cassiopeia to show how good grounded is. Can't wait for that one.
It's the tour around grounded champions. There we go.
At the top of the day, we talked about Gen G as an organization and how historically doomed their runs have been. How many second places they've had across this entire roster, not just the org. But we have also seen teams reach a point of singularity where there just doesn't seem to be any way to deal with everything they throw at you. Damwon has done this. T1 literally did this in spring, where you can say ban X champion, but there's always more. And Gen G, to me, feels like they have reached that point. They're currently up soul points, 19 minutes in, 8k gold lead. What do you do?
Well, you think about game number 3. That's the answer. What you're supposed to do here. Because, like you say, 8k gold lead is absurd. Infernal Chains are going to miss. Zeus is walking the wrong direction, though, as we can see. And Chovy's going to make his way down. This is already a very difficult game, made worse here for Zeus towards the bottom side of the map, trying to create whatever pressure he can. And Peanut, top of the morning to the bottom lane there, as he did say hello. And Ruler is just happily farming, past the mid-outer turret of T1.
And this is a draft for T1 that was very much flexed around the Renekton. That's why they were able to make this happen, but it was still so high variance, and Gen.G still have that R5 counter pick, and you've already got the Sylas into this. I think the draft is the big issue for T1. I think the potential was there, absolutely, but Owner was not, and Peanut made huge impact in the early game, and then Gen.G just ran with it because this comp couldn't be more snowbally, and they forced those advantages, and I think the risk T1 took is unfortunate. They lose this game, but can they recover mentally after this one is my big question, even if the draft is better in Game 3.
Gen.G, the team that historically has let down many a fan at a crucial point in time, is currently on a trajectory to perfect Game T1. They have lost nothing. No kills, no heralds, no dragons, no turrets.
Oh my goodness.
I know!
Yep. It's one of those things.
In a finals.
Yeah.
This is crazy. And you think about it in the context of Ruler never winning a domestic final somehow. Chovy, so many times being second place. So many times second place to Faker as well as Peanut. Possibly caught out. Goodbye. Perfect game as the Wallop will connect. And that is Gumyushi picking up a kill here for T1. And I said it was okay to write the eulogy. Maybe. No, it's probably still okay to write it. But
not the perfect game anymore. That's a death on the record books. You had to caster curse it, didn't you, Chronicle?
Well, we just wanted to get as many games as possible, Wolf, okay? So we commentators, we have one power, and that is the ability to curse. And I think that it was the right thing.
I would like to apologize personally. Why did Peanut die? Because he greeted for chickens.
He greeted for chickens, and Zeus actually plays this perfectly with his Narbar. Drags him back, the rest of the team springs into action. Very quick reaction there, and unfortunately Peanut doesn't flash fast enough to escape. Greets for chickens, he's dead. And you know what, considering the game state, I'd probably rather save it. The flash regardless.
Ooh. Another ulti to come through here as World Ender comes down. There's the teleport in. Oh my goodness, that third Q is just insane. Chovy's going to make his way down as well. Everfrost is going to slow up Faker, and Doran still wants to kill his lane opposition, and Faker is going to kill him for it. Gen.G, they do manage to trade back, but any even trade is actually much better for T1 right now.
I mean, they block any rotation down. They're going to push this further. They're going to grab a turret from this. And, I mean, that's not even Gore Drinker Aatrox. It's still so difficult to kill.
That's the point, and Peanut can throw his ultimate there. I don't think Gen.G care at all. They're going to get the soul coming up very soon. That's all they care about. And they now have a summoner's advantage, can just park Doran or Chovy in the side lane, apply pressure, and as long as they get this soul, you know, despite some people getting caught out twice in a row now, Doran had flash and stopwatch.
Well, there's the ulti. They catch him before he can even press the black shield button, and that is the jungler dead. That means free soul here for Gen.G, and they'll make their way over and start that one now.
I mean, it doesn't get freer than this. And Baron is up. T1 don't have the damage to start it. They don't have vision control. You can see they're kind of trying to posture towards it, but it's a pipe dream at this point. Lehans is going to push this wave, even though he's a support. He's trying to come over here and look for any sort of control on Naguma as he can. Like, he's just like, oh yeah, come over here. We will engage on you. We have ult.
Well, Zeus does have a Yuumi. Ruler is going to be able to dash his way out. He, of course, dodges a bunch of those auto attacks.
Doran
feeling pretty good. Doran possibly in trouble, and Gumyushi is going to take away his Shellfish. Zeus is rotating up as well. Final chapter comes down. Doran trying to turn it here where he can. He gets exhausted, though. There's the flash now. Great stopwatch there from Doran. Is it going to be enough to save him, though, is the question, and the answer is yes. Humble Dash does come through. Oh, my God. Faker just explodes. Peanut misses the ultimate, but it may not matter at all. He flashes for the Winter's Wrath as Gumyushi's over the wall. Decent binding is going to be there, but the Gnar is also dead, and now Gen.G are looking for a Baron.
Ruler wasn't even there!
Oh. Well, this is a really rough game here for T1, but Owner is still looking to try and challenge for this Baron.
Chovy.
Lehens is very, very low. Mega Adhesive does go down as Chovy's going to flash. There's the three-man. No, he kills the Zeri so extremely quickly, and it's another kill to go over to Ruler as well. Genji will take the Baron, and they're going to now look to push in all of these lanes and win this game.
I was going to discuss it earlier, but the game seemed so off the rails, it never seemed like it was going to be relevant. But also, Nar into Silas.
Yeah, I know. I had to mention it on the side, like it's 14 minutes or something.
It's just really, I mean, there's like so many issues here on so many levels. And Doran, because he has stopwatch here, is never in any danger. Rotation is quick. Teleport comes over for Chovy. And you're trapped here as T1. You have to chase, you have to find something, but you don't have damage. You have no items. You have no control in this game.
And throughout all of this, again, they're down a member. They're down a member, but they have so much gold. It's basically still a fight with advantage for them. So this play, you need to pull the trigger as Genji. You don't want to risk the steal coming through. And Chovy pulls the trigger. End of the game, I think, right there. Well, game ended a while ago, but this is truly the, I don't know how many nails go in a coffin, but like they're really overdoing it here.
Yeah, this is basically a coffin made out of nails now.
Yeah.
At this point in time.
High-powered nail gun firing them in.
No, I would 100% agree. Genji still need to cross the I's and dot the T's, as they say.
Look at the damage here. It is insane for Chovy this game.
Ruler's damage.
Yeah, Ruler just, I mean, he managed to get that one kill therefore, but he hasn't necessarily been the important point.
He pressed R, that's what this champ does.
1.7k.
He's outranged, okay?
He's just there as an R button.
Well, speaking of R buttons, Peanut's going to throw his into the nether. Gumushi not going to get thrown back. Definitely important, but these Nexus turrets are going down. Owner immediately diving forward. Soul Shackles at the ready, but it doesn't really do anything. Chovy throws out the chains, doesn't quite connect them, is now T1. I mean, they've got a naked Nexus, you got to go for something, but the wallets are so heavy here from Genji. The explosion of damage as well, and there is the Nexus going down for the second time, and Genji have match point in the 2022 Summer Final.
Genji, for me, this game, this second game of League of Legends we just watched, what little we did see in that game.
I mean, we saw all of the game,
but Peanut was the guy, and he is the one player who does have titles, and we've talked about Ruler, we've talked about Lehens on his Singed, we've spent a lot of time talking about these players getting their first title, potentially tonight, that they can win this third game. But Peanut was everywhere that game. And T1, they tried to find small edges. They tried to find advantages. They were punished twice, big time. And that's all the snowball down the hill that Genji needed to just absolutely destroy, crush that game. Super one-sided. And Peanut was all about him setting up. And yeah, Lehens was there, played great Singe, standard for him, but it's your young, you know, it's your big brother here who's got so much experience. I think that really carries them through the second game.
And the core issue to me is T1, they have the mental to come back from this. But what do you actually do? It's not about, is T1 going to be able to like bounce back from a bad game? Of course they are. Like we've seen these players do it in much more high pressure situations. But what do you draft? Give me an answer, because I don't have it. Like, you can't pick Yuumi.
Yeah, that's the problem. You can't pick Yuumi. I think the blue side Yuumi ban was the best choice that they could go for, but maybe it was the first pick Sivir, maybe a first pick Azir is something that T1 can go for, because I liked, and it didn't work, didn't look great, but I did kind of like just leaving up the Yuumi and seeing whether it's going to work out. But the bottom lane wasn't even any part of this story whatsoever.
I mean, it helped set up the kills for the carries, who were not the 80 carry in this case, is playing Neela. And I think for me, the biggest story is Forest to your left, bottom left of the screen, the Poppy ban. Peanut showed on Sejuani what he's capable of. His pathing is incredible. He's everywhere on the map, but that's the one ban that sticks out to me still, as you've got to find a better answer to this Poppy pick, because everything else, Genji is just so flexible. The Poppy pick, I think, is the least of your concerns. When you have Singed that can counter your Yuumi, when you have Doran on R5 Aatrox again, there's so many things that they could do differently, I think, in these drafts, and we saw basically two identical ones in the early bans.
Yeah, I think it's always very dangerous to try and pick Yuumi into Lehens. So Probably not going to be doing that, but ladies and gentlemen, what we are going to be doing is going to a short break. When we get back, the analyst carpet space, and then game number 3 and possibly the final of the series.
내가 제리 한번 던질 생각한다. 던질게. 가비. 제리 입 빠졌어. 탑타워 위에 아래 타워 얘들아 아래 타워 오케이 얘들아 모르가나 모르가나 존야 있어. 빨리지 마 뺐어 쌈 보자 얘들아. 얘네 무조건 걸어줘야 돼. 타워 끝내 생각하자. 끝났다 무조건 싸맞아 죽여 야 이거 제리 노플이야 나이스 이거거든.
잘생겼다.
시원하게 잘생겼네.
근데 오늘 촬영 얼마나 걸려요?
오늘 금방 끝날 것 같아요. 혹시 그 MC분은 당구님이신가요? 아니요, 수빈님이랑 강수님. 혹시 그분들도 강릉에 오나요?
더 꽉 찬 결승을 위해 우리가 왔다.
꽉뺀
자! LOL e스포츠의 역사를 장식한 강팀 중 하나죠. 2022 스프링 준우승의 아쉬움을 딛고 더 강해져서 돌아왔습니다. 2라운드 전승에 정규 시즌 1위, 압도적인 라인전 체급과 운영 능력의 젠지입니다. 반갑습니다. 혹시 선수분들도 약간 저희 꽉벤져스 좀 알고 계신지 좀 궁금해요.
도란 선수가 많이 평소에 말해요.
진짜요?
왜요? 그랬나? 제가 잘 알고 있는데 대단하시더라고요.
이번 결승전도 이제 T젠전, 젠티전이 됐는데 나에게 있어 T1이랑 뭐 아니면 젠지에게 있어 T1이랑
약간 어쩔 때는 좀 벽 같은 느낌? 그리고 약간 한 번씩 무너뜨릴 때가 있어서
뭔가 넘을 맛이 나는 벽 같다 뭐 이런 느낌 좀 들리는 것 같은데요?
약간 담 넘는 게 재밌으니까 많이
많이
해봤죠 옛날에.
많이 해보셨나 봐요.
저는 안 해봐가지고.
그러면 이제 초비 선수랑 유해지 선수는 또 다른 생각이 또 있을 것 같은데 어때요?
그냥 미워요.
그냥 미워요?
티원이 워낙 자주 높은 곳으로 가기 때문에 티원 만난다는 건 이제 반대로 똑같이 성적 잘 냈다고 생각해서 좋은 뜻이지 않나.
와, 이건 되게 좋은 마인드셋인데요?
네. 본격적으로 젠제 팀워크를 점검할 수 있는 시간을 가져보려고 하는데요.
유키.
1번 문제 드리겠습니다. 어떤 챔피언의 스킬인지 쓰시면 됩니다.
아는 사람은 알만한
좀 어렵다.
스킬이고 좀 어렵다면 어려운 스킬이에요.
소고기를 안 주실 생각으로.
근데 아셔야 되는 분이 모르시는 것 같기도 하고 지금.
대답. 모르네.
아니다.
당신이요.
너.
당신이요. 이거 아니야? 이거 아니에요? 먼저 보겠습니다. 하나, 둘, 셋. 쓰레쉬가 있어요. 대부분 신지드가 나왔고.
머리가 멀구나 역시.
와 쓰레쉬 뭐냐?
쓰레쉬 아니?
뭔 소리야?
아 저 사람이야?
초비 선수가 잘 맞추는데?
너야?
아니 신지드 평소에 뭐
근데 이거 신지드 스킬은 어떻게 알았어 너네?
옛날에 한번 해봤어. 근데 정작 닌 선수가 스킬명이 헷갈리네요.
근데 사실 저 이렇게 가까이서 본 건 처음인데 이게 그 했던 걸 생각해 보니까 확대하면 저런 느낌일 것 같다 이렇게 돼가지고
리엔 선수에게 신지드란 챔피언 이제 어떤 느낌인 걸까요?
제가 4번을 해서 4번을 다 이겼는데 저만 할 수 있는 거니까 좀 의미가 이제는 좋은 걸로 기억되고 있습니다.
그럼 다음 문제로 가보겠습니다.
네.
주세요.
이번 서머 2라운드를 전승으로 마무리한 젠지는 LCK 역대 최다 득실차 기록을 경신했습니다. 승패 득실차를 모두 쓰세요.
이거 뭐라 진짜.
되게 진지한 표정이신데 공개해볼까요?
17승 1패 30점.
형 뭐야? 형 19번 했어?
나 몇 팀인지 아예 기억이 안 났어.
시호 형은 뭐야?
나 잘못한 거 같아.
31승
나 이거 그 세트로 적은 줄 알았어.
3명 맞췄지?
정답은 17승 1패 플러스 30이에요. 플러스 30. 말이 안 되는 데이터를 세웠는데 본인들이 볼 때 이 기록이 한 얼마나 갈 것 같아요?
더 안 나올 것 같아요.
다시는 안 나올 것 같다.
네, 그럴 것 같습니다.
자신감 있는 얘기 좋아요. 약간 도라 선수가 그건 아닌 것 같은 이런 표정이었거든요.
만약에 이 팀이 또 내년에 간다면 저희가 깰 수 있지 않을까. 우리만 깰 수 있다.
우리만
깰
깰수 있다. 이런 거 현준이 내년에 도망가 버리기.
자, 마지막 문제입니다. 초비 선수의 정규 시즌 최다 픽은 아지르, 아리인데요. 만약 내가 상대팀이라면 초비한테 아리 풀기 vs 아지르 풀기.
이건 초비 선수랑 같은 답을 써주신 분이 3분 이상이면 정답으로 하겠습니다.
근데 이건 너무 쉽다.
오, 쉽다고요?
저도 쉽다고 생각합니다.
그냥 너 지우면 그냥. 너는 아지르.
아지르 풀기.
저도 아지르.
그런 거.
저도 아지를.
네.
저도 아지를.
근데 이랬는데 초비 선수가 아리면 이제
그럴 수도 있는데?
아 그럴 수가 없어요.
나 아닌데? 나 아닌데?
너 노래 너무 몰라.
왜 아리는 풀도 괜찮을 것 같아요?
아리 똥심인데.
어때요?
아니 아리 대 아지를 끝나고 돌아봐.
아 됐다.
아니 아리 똥챔인데 어떻게 16승 1패가 가능한 거예요?
내가 초비다.
네, 저희 팀원들이.
그 아레나에서 10번 정도 들은 것 같아요. 네, 이렇게 저희 유퀴즈 함께 해주셨으니까 저희가 또 소고기 선물 드리도록 하겠습니다. 네, 대표로 드릴게요, 룰러 선수께.
대표로,
네.
감사합니다.
형 우리도 먹어도 되는 거지?
감사합니다.
네, 먹어도 되겠지.
네, 그럼 끝으로 젠지의 결승 우승을 향한 각오 들어보도록 하겠습니다.
인수빈님이랑 강키님 저희가 카운터라고 했는데 결승전 복각 전에 저희가 이어서 복 카운터인 거 한 번 더 증명을 하겠습니다.
전 이제 좀 이기고 싶으니까 이기겠습니다.
와, 담백해. 좋아요.
젠지
화이팅, 화이팅! 젠지.
너의 꿈을 펼쳐봐 텅빈 세상을 향해
2024 강원 동계 청소년 올림픽 대회 평창의 감동이 강원으로 이어집니다.
Welcome back, guys. We are here at the analyst desk. It's me, Valdez, with Rush, and that looked almost like a scrim. I mean, it was such a dominating win from Gen G. What do you have to say about that? How do you think T1 can come back if possible?
Game 2 definitely was a stomp, and I guess like T1 changed their draft plan, leaving Yumi up, and Gen G didn't ban either of Severe I mean, didn't ban Zeri and giving them Yumi and Zeri up, and they tried to counterpick with Singed and Nilla, and I guess it worked. And I'm very curious, like how T1 will perform, or what's their next draft plan on such pressure situation, being too old.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult from a mental standpoint for sure. In this draft, you know, the only thing I could really say is that we've seen the Morgana alongside of the Yumi and the Zeri before. The Renekton and the Gnar felt a little bit out of place. But at the end of the day, guys, like, say what you want about the draft. Gen G, they brought in some interesting stuff, but it didn't matter. Like, they could have come in here with 5 Teemos and played like that and probably won the game. So, just in outclassing there in game number 2, let's go into highlight number 1 and talk about some of these early ganks that we did see in this game.
So I'm going to say this was really like perfect execution and the plays from the Genji side, because they saw Renekton using E early, and Chovy landed all the E second, and also second one, the Hands had a free roam, not getting punished because they have Yumi and Zeri lane. And this gank 3, look at how Singed plays here, like flash E, root them, slows them, and after they cancels the jump, so they pick up double kill. If you kill the like cat owner Zeri, Yumi is going to be a free kill.
Yeah, and that turns into the double kill. And the reason why this is highlight number 1 is because it was perfect execution, as you said, but it really showed us the game plan from Gen G as well. They got ahead of this Zeri Yumi. They did not let it scale at all. And after that, I mean, Gen G had like a 6,000 gold lead. It was something ridiculous super early on in the game. So let's take a look at highlight number 2, which is, you know, Gen G are already very far in the lead here. They almost have Doran get caught, though, but the power of stopwatch comes in, and Gen G are able to turn this around.
Yeah, so if you look at here, Gnar did ultimate there. That was good ultimate, but he stopwatched. And I think T1's comp is more likely a kiting comp, and Gen G's comp is fighter's comp. But like, as long as they build to kill Aatrox here, and the fighters on the melee range, and they're doing damages and locking them down, and kill 2 people here.
Yeah. And eventually, you know, we fast forward, and then Chovy pulls off probably the prettiest play of the night. And a very flashy one from him, steals the Gnar ultimate, you know.
Yeah, I'm going to say Chovy even could have done 1v3 here. That was like biggest Gnar ultimate we have ever seen, maybe.
It's kind of insane. We've seen a lot of Sylas Gnar ultimates, and that one is probably top 5, right? That one was really, really pretty.
Yep.
It's, you know, did he have to do that to win the game? Probably not, but it was a nice way to cap it off. And as the commentators were talking about, it was a huge mental victory for Gen G to really put them in their place this hard.
Yeah, it's like, I'm very like curious like how T1 may play a game 3. Like, can they reverse sweep, or Gen just gonna like shut them down?
Yeah, it's a big question, because I don't know. You know, they got blue side twice, right? In game number 1, game number 2. That wasn't enough. They got Zeri Yumi, which was undefeated in our playoffs here in the LCK. They weren't able to win with that. So what is the option? You know, do you switch sides? Do you try to pull out some kind of crazy pick?
Maybe they're gonna pull out some pocket pick, maybe like Samira, maybe Seraphim bot lane or Senna bot lane. I don't really know. Or maybe like they try the same plan again, like leaving Yumi off, and let's go for Yumi or Sevier this time.
Maybe they try to leave some of the Yumi Zeri, and maybe they try to play the Singed, you know? We'll have to wait and see, guys, because that's going to do it for this segment of the Analyst Desk. Let's go back to the casters for Game 3.
Thank you so much, Valdez and Rush, for, of course, bringing us that extraordinarily kindness-filled desk segment. Absolutely fantastic stuff. And yes, Gen G now at match point here for the 2022 Summer Finals. And there is a surprise in store, ladies and gentlemen, as T1 take to the stage once again. They also have side selection, and their choice may surprise many of you, I believe. What do you think, gentlemen? Do you think that it's time for a switch-up?
I mean, I think regardless of what choice you make here as T1, and they will choose red side here, which is what you were alluding to, it's not going to change the outcome necessarily. You're going to have to play better. It's not about the draft here. I mean, the draft is a big problem because Gen G have such huge picks, but you just have to outplay them, and we can't see the same mistakes we saw in Game 2. Or it is going to be a 3-0 finals here tonight.
After that game, I don't see it. But based on how Gen G have played, based on how T1 individually have looked, as Des pointed out, they could have drafted 5 Teemos. That is stretching it for sure.
I think that is, yeah.
But the point underneath that Hyperball stands, individually, if we talked so much coming in this finals about Ruler, if he can come in, do 3.5k damage, and basically say, thank you for carrying team, like, if that's not enough, what is?
Very good question, but here we are, gentlemen, into the draft for what could be the final match of the series. Hopefully it's not. Hopefully this is where T1 start the attempted reverse sweep, and we actually make a series of this as Gen G, their bans on the blue side haven't changed too much here, as the Nautilus will still be taken away first, but there is the Draven as second ban. As Gen G, I think, are eyeing up a bit of a Lucian angle.
So Lucian, I think, is the pick they'll probably end up getting here, but we saw Lehen's answer to the Yuumi, but allow us to potentially introduce Lehen's Yuumi into the equation, because they have blue side for the first time in this series, and now T1 have to give Lucian or Yuumi because they're still stuck on this Poppy ban, and I mean, Owner doesn't play Poppy. He just doesn't do it. They ban it every game as a result. We saw the same thing from Live Sandbox. Peanut literally changed the meta on this pick, and it has to be banned. And now they're going to try to make a trade here. But, I mean, Ruler gets Yuumi, or Lehens gets Yuumi. Yeah. I mean, allow us to introduce it. Here it is.
Guess what? Sari and Sniver are both up.
Yeah. So now T1 need to show us what their answer to the Yuumi is. Now, we've seen 2 of them. One of them is Singed. The other option is, of course, going for that Sejuani Yasuo bottom lane. That is now impossible. T1 will lock away at least the Sivir, so denying what has been the most successful recent Yuumi counterpart. But Owner does have the ability to head towards the Vi, so it does mean Assault and Battery gives you access to the Zeri if Gen G decide to pick it.
I think it's Zeri Morgana. I think you go Zeri Morgana here, and then you live your best life. The Camille ban already very strong. Could mean that T1 then gets a much stronger mid pick. I expect the Ahri to come out here again.
Yeah.
And Azir completely fine as well. Personally, as mentioned, I like the Morgana into the Vi a lot.
I think the Morgana is very strong, but not absolutely necessary here. And you, as Gen G, have 3 prio picks. And if T1 want to pick the Ahri for the Ahri Vi, we've already seen Chovy wins that lane. He got prio. They got early objective control with the Zeri draft. So this really feels very reminiscent of Game 1 in a lot of ways, except this time the Zeri has a Yuumi. And we go back to the draft and why T1 chose red side, and it didn't lead to any big success here, no big changes. And even with Vi being able to instantly, ult Zeri, Zeri is so mobile that it actually pulls the jungler so far back that you need more follow-up CC, and that's where the Ahri comes in, right? That's why this combo is so strong, but it's just the ultimate mobility that this comp provides you as Gen G.
It's a scary prospect here for T1 fans. We've seen the Yuumi, Zeri, Azir, first 3 picks on blue side be so extraordinarily powerful here in the LCK. T1, they have answers. They have a very high priority bottom lane pick themselves in the Sivir. But now Gen G get to go into this next round of bans, and they can get rid of some of the answers to the Yuumi that we've seen, such as the Amumu, and of course the Lulu as well, which does also come to mind. Carrier, we'll see whether he's been practicing something like the Singed, or whether Gen G are going to clue into it and take that one away instead.
Problem with a lot of the engaged supports that work well with Sivir to try to lock down the Zeri loses you control of the laning phase, which means that you won't have the same power on Drake. So even if he would play the Amumu, it's not going to be as strong here. We saw that in Game 1 where they didn't control the early prio. They lost 2 Drakes early. And so your options are limited as Carrier here that going to continue to target ban him. And then, even if you do get a strong engaged champion, how good is that going to be really when we hit those level 6 fights on Drake?
Ornn Ben's interesting. I was expecting them to go for Ornn Trundle here on the rotation, but not going to be the case. Instead, it's going to be the Ornn banned away, which probably going to be another blind Aatrox, blind Renekton, of course, also a possibility here for Doran, but Aatrox really has felt like the champion he is most comfortable on. But a Gen G with a Nazir Renekton in the possible final game, I think is a little bit of poetic justice as well. I wouldn't mind it personally.
The Morgana you mentioned, also still available.
Exactly.
And a lot of magic damage if they pick the Morgana, but do you even care?
I mean, it's Renekton Morgana, that's so strong as well. If you can make some topside plays, even blind here.
I don't think you care, because it's still Ruler on a crit 80 carry.
And you don't need to go for the Leandri's build as Chovy in this game because you're not dealing with strong tanks. You ban the Ornn. Jin Zhao also very strong here in terms of hard engage.
Yeah, you get to click on the enemy AD carry and go in there. So that is certainly a great option here for Gen G who want to be taking out Gumayusi.
Spell shielding basically impossible into this draft as well. Like, good luck.
Yeah, and additionally, what Xin Zhao does very well is create space. Also does very well with Yuumi on top of him, but even if Owner goes in, the rest of the team tries to follow up. An ultimate from Peanut can ruin it as, oh, Zeus.
I love this. This was one of the original answers to Yuumi all those times back, because of course, she goes into a Death Realm, or if she's with someone and they go into the Death Realm, the cat dies, is generally how that one goes.
Also very strong, you know, to play this weak side here as T1. Not a ton of synergy with the Vi in terms of top 2v2 here, but my issue is that T1 could have prio mid. We talked about the Azir Ahri, but in game one, we were able to watch Gen G showcase that Chovy usually wins that matchup. You have strong late game scaling in this draft, and Mordekaiser means you don't have top side control necessarily. Can be decent into the Renekton, but early objective control is going to be so much easier for Gen G to take a hold of, which buys them time for the Zera Yuumi.
Yeah, and it looks to me like this draft, it could be one of those drafts where it's like, oh, they just banned Peanuts champions because everybody else got almost exactly what they wanted on Gen G's side. This time, T1 on the red side, though, for the first time this series. See whether that's going to be enough to get them back into it. It is the beginning, potentially, a reverse sweep time. T1, their backs are well and truly against the wall now. Chovy looking for that first final victory. Ruler as well after all these years, still looking for his first domestic final victory. This might be the time. It could be this game.
It's been so long. 3 out of the 5 players of Griffin after the debacle of 2018 that they lost, by the way,
to their coach.
Their coach, who was out trying to get them that first win.
It's, you know, we mentioned T1's mentality, but see if they can bounce back, Atlas.
Exactly right. Let's do it. Let's get into game number 3 of the 2022 Summer Final. You can hear the T1 fans definitely wanting us to get a series out of today. They have to win this game if they're going to do so. If they do win it, it's off the back of Zeus's Mordekaiser towards that top side of the map. I'm very excited to see how this game is going to go. T1's draft, it looks fine, but you look on the side of Gen G, and I think that they would have blind picked 4 of these champions.
I think that something that has kind of gone unsaid here as we've talked about Gen G's second places is that 18 runner-ups is 18 finals worth of experience that Owner doesn't have, that Zeus doesn't have, that Guma doesn't have, and even Keria, as long as he's been around, doesn't have, right? And you look at the experience that these players have, Ruler, Lehens, the Griffin guys, right? Doran, Peanut, with his titles he's picked up, Chovy, to 6 finals, and in terms of being up 2-0, like, I would give Gen G a better chance of reverse sweeping than I would T1, even though they played MSI to 5 games. They've been a team that was dominant in spring, but we didn't really see them lose that much. And then this season, they were second place, still very dominant. But going 0-2 in a finals like this, picking red side, not getting the greatest draft back here, not seeing huge changes, I don't know if they have it in them to reverse sweep. You know, you mentioned earlier, Chronicle, that you think they did. I kind of disagree.
And it's very tough. The one thing I really like about this T1 draft is a draft with a lot of agency. Vi Ahri basically plays itself, And hopefully it'll incentivize T1 to have a game that at least is more like game number 1. Do I think they will? No, I think it's a 3-0. I see Zeri, Yumi on Ruler and Lahens, and I don't believe. I don't see it. I don't see the angle. We saw what Ruler did in the previous game, and that was without Yumi. That combo, to me, is just the epitome of not a lot of counterplay at some points. But not only is there the Vi Ahri, but Zeus also has tremendous carry potential by finding key targets in team fights. Not unlike what Poppy does. You know, Mordekaiser did it before it was cool. I don't know if that's going to be enough, though. I don't think it will be.
That's the thing that's really difficult here in this series. And when you see that it's T1 choosing the red side, that's when you know that something has gone wrong, right? That's when you know that their backs are well and truly against the wall, because they've realized that, try as they might, getting the drafts that they wanted wasn't possible from the blue side. But this is a team that has been very vocal about enjoying blue side throughout this entire year. And so that is what really does put a lot of fear into my mind about T1's chances. However, looking up and down the draft, I don't think it's going to be as bad as game number 2.
No.
Especially considering the fact that Gen G have a lot of these scaling options this time around as well. So probably going to be a much more honest game of League of Legends, but I still think it's going to be very difficult for T1 to take it. They do, though. The momentum switch will.
I want to see what the... and I do agree, the momentum shift could be massive if T1 actually suddenly start coming back. They win 2 in a row, but I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here. I'm interested to see how team fights go, because Zeus, yes, he can rip the Yumi, away, essentially, by taking away the whoever she's attached to, but will she ever... Oh, no.
Oh, wow. That timing's pretty absurd. Vault Breaker going to come forward. Doran does have flash available. Oh, the sidestep, not quite enough range, but the death grip is good enough. As Zeus is looking for it, there's the flash forward from both of the T1 players, and they'll lock down first blood.
Peanut just a little bit late here, unfortunately, on the play. The timing of that, so unfortunate there for Doran. And down he goes.
Charging. Yeah. He's looking for it, has the knock up, but even with the teleport, don't think he wants to go for it right now.
Doran's flashless. Not going to commit, but we'll give him back control of the lane.
Ooh. Immediate return gank.
Ooh, great sidestep there from Chovy as we see a bit of a scuffle in the mid lane. Conquering Sands, fair bit of damage onto Faker.
And do note, Chovy forced Faker back when Faker was sitting around 16 CS. Faker was forced to TP. Chovy got a free back. And as a result now has so much more pressure in this lane. So getting a play topside for T1, I think is instrumental, because the mid lane is looking as dire as it looks this entire series.
His wave state, or the wave manipulation is using here as well, putting the Sand Soldiers in the middle, making Faker have to use his Q to actually clear, and last hit means he has so much more agency. Ooh. Owner again.
Yeah, I'm seeing tents here towards the top side. But not going to be something they commit to just yet. Peanut in the area, as Doran knows that things could get very, very dangerous. And also, Gen G understand that they have the vision control. Owner's still here, though, for the counter gank opportunity. As we're bringing them back forward. There's the Vault Breaker once again, as Doran slices, dices, gets himself out. But is Peanut going to be so lucky? The answer's yes. Doesn't have to invest his flash just yet.
And this is where you see the value of Mordekaiser. Really a stat-checky champion, and if you're playing into double melee, get so much value out of that. Really nicely done. T1 playing to their 1 pressure point, and we're just staying top.
Well, yeah, this is just a 2v2 lane now, I guess. Jungling, not a thing. As Zeus, that's a really nice use of Death Grip. That's going to deny it, obliterate, fair bit of damage there onto Peanut.
Doran knows 6 is coming up, and with that, they could try to duel as Chovy.
Yeah, Chovy looking for a solo kill here, but Faker is underneath his turret, and Chovy not going to get too greedy.
Chovy is just such an insane laner. He's just doing this so consistently against Ahri. Arguably his best champion.
Well, there's an exhaust onto Gumayusi. You can see Gen G not going to quite find the engage that they're looking for there. And in fact, Lahen's just used both of his summoner spell buttons.
Here's 6.
All right, Dominus is going to come through here as Slice comes in. Where's the dice? And it's, ooh, not actually going. That was in fact the dice before. because we came up to it a little bit too late. So Peanut has looking to finish this one off. He does have that flash that he prepared earlier, and that will mean the kill. Gen G even the scoreline.
And I think Doran is very aware of how much extra time Owner siphoned experience there on the top side. He hits 6 first, knows Zeus isn't going to be able to ult him under turret. He's still level 5, commits the Dominus, knows he's, he's really playing with fire here. And all of this is set up, of course, in this longer stay from Owner, where he's actually getting solo experience, so he gets 6 first. And obviously the Xin Chao a little bit further behind on the play here. And I just thought this call here from Doran, knowing he has 6, knowing he's zoned out of experience, Zeus can't hit 6 in this exchange, so smart.
And Zeus also feeling safe there, but due to the ward, Doran knows, yep, you're still there. I can take you down easily. Peanut, love the flash here as well. Not wasting any time, not trying to go for any cheeky plays, just making sure, get the kill, get out, get the blade from my top laner. And as a result, even with the amount of attention that was paid towards top side, we now see Zeus in a very, very rough state, looking to go for a more tanky build of Mordekaiser, just relying on the base damage and the utility that he does provide with his ultimate. But early game wins for Gen G with a Renekton and a Azir comp. I've seen that before.
You didn't even mention the biggest problem of this comp. That
we don't talk about bot lane.
That's the thing that's very, very frightening here. Because, of course, Zera Yumi does still exist in this team composition. Haven't even mentioned it.
Has a slight gold deficit at the moment, but very slight. And, this is the prio we were talking about that Gen G have. They are going to try to utilize for early Drake control. This is where things can get very hairy for T1, because if you give too many early objectives, you are, of course, going to give Gen G the ability to slowly get 3 items Zeri. But if you fight...
Oh, Peanut's coming through. That is a use of the Spirit Rush to get out of the way of the Emperor's Divide. Carrier going to be here in position, as Ruler still just fighting this one out. Oh my goodness, the damage is already absurd. But not going to be able to pick up any kills just yet. They get the flash and the ghost out of Gumayusi though, and it's definitely very important here for Gen G.
T1 trying to group up and set up for a counter gank, but Peanut's ahead of the curve, and they're grouped up for Drake now. I mean, this is the Azir control.
Yeah. And again, it comes down to mid-prio, right? Like the ability that Chovy has on this Azir to just rotate first. Contest is impossible. Faker teleporting towards bot side. Drake's gone.
So desperate, but so late.
Yeah, not going to be able to do it. Can't get there in time.
Dace is running.
Looking for an assault and battery target, but Peanut just once again going to show him his top hat and make his way out.
Zeus also rotates bottom, so he's losing control here top side. Doran's is sitting pretty. And, I mean, he rotates back quickly. But it's just win after win after win here for Gen G. Tiny gold lead, but that objective is 5 minutes of time for the Azir, the Zeri.
Oh dear, Gumayusi in trouble. Remember, no flash, no ghost. And Spell Shield is not going to save you from that one, although it might. Never mind, Carrier comes on over, does manage to shield him up, and so Gumayusi will walk it out.
But flash is expended for it as well.
And he lives, but at the very least, Wave going to get shoved in. Guma very low, might be trying to pick it up here regardless, with Carrier standing watch. This time around Faker earlier on the play, so bot lane of Gen G not going to take any risks, because I want to reiterate, Gen G doesn't need to take a risk in this world.
Ruler stayed. He was looking for an extendo beam bottom. I was watching him. They pinged him. And he will, of course, get away. Guma, that is.
Well, Chovy gets word. The fact that Owner might be in the area. Does throw that ward in. Gets a little bit of information. But control vision here towards that top side for T1. Will make sure that things get very dark for Chovy once again. As Ruler is going to skate his way out. Gets himself a plate before he will go back home. See how close to his first item he is going to be as he gets there.
Another problem for Prio is, where do you get value out of this Rift Herald? Where does it go? Where's the lane control here for T1? Not a whole lot of it anywhere on the map, and Peanut's just kind of surfing around, threatening non-stop, and Faker's caught behind this wave again. Look at Chovy, puts the Sand Soldier in the middle. Faker cannot farm here. He has to wait for the wave. And just repeatedly, we're seeing this over and over again. And it's unfortunately a Lulu, so there's no extra support roams that Carrier could do against this Yumi like we saw Lehens do on the Singed.
You got to get kills here. You got to start taking down people with this Ari and Vi.
Yeah.
Can't just play it late, especially with a early Mountain Drake getting picked up for a pick-based composition like T1's. It's really, really rough.
Well, Lehens is going to rotate over. Looking to help out the Pigeon. Peanut will turn up again, but they do manage to get the charge. Will it be the turret as well? Looks like the answer is going to be no. T1 not going to be able to finish that one off, but it is still a fair bit of plate money. As Ruler not wanting to overextend either here towards this bottom side. Gen.G definitely playing very respectfully this stage of the game.
Yeah, he's just finished his call. He's happy to sit back here and carefully push this one in. Taking only one plate.
Ooh, Ruler possibly in trouble. Now going for the 1v1 because he knows that he's dead. Owner's going to turn up and Gumayusi is going to help him take down that kill. So Ruler going to get caught out, overextended a little bit there towards that bottom side.
Maybe reading into some backs. They did have a fair amount of vision on bot side, but didn't catch crucial rotations of a couple of members coming through. And Ruler have been playing very respectfully up until this point. Gets taken down there. Owner really continuously looking for these plays that they need. Again, T1's comp, I think, has way more pressure on them, and picking up early plates, picking up kills like this.
Yeah,
very
Faker
much what they need to do.
Grabs another plate with the Demolish he took again here, just like game one. So they do get some extra gold here. It was not just a trade of kill for plate here with Ruler going down and mid plate going over. So getting something back. Sorry, getting some extra money, but the same issues do exist, you know, in terms of the time. The clock is what's working against T1 more than anything else. And they need to force more kills than just an overextended Zeri here. They need to win a team fight. They need something decisive. And this is clean and all, but Chovy gets a plate mid. Top side still under control by Doran. And now Ruler's just free farming mid.
Yeah, he's going to move back to a little bit of added safety, I guess, although his turret is not very healthy. Still, they have a lot of vision now. And so Gen.G, they've taken a couple of plates already here towards this top side as Doran just going to walk it out. Looking to see whether he could stop him from having a great time with Zeus, but not able to actually stop the Renekton from moving away. Still has a 30 CS advantage here. Does the Crocodile?
Yeah, and going with a Gore Drinker builder for Doran makes him a lot stronger in team fighting. But with Zeus opting into a Sunfire Cape, I don't think Doran really wins the extended trades anymore. We'll still be able to very easily get Prio, but very clear indication as well that Gen.G are reading this as a, we are playing for the mid to late stage of the game. We're going to get at least one item, possibly more, and then we're going to go from there. We are not worried at all about our ability to win the game as we get later and later in there. And given how T1 has been playing out, at least this is a much more competitive game, but I'm pretty sure they're going to give up a second Drake again, and I've seen how that Taken Herald for Drake trade has gone the last few times.
Yeah, and that's my problem with this Mordekaiser right now. Yeah, he can win extended trades on the side lane, but in a team fight, his impact might just be too little if he can't actually ult the Zeri target, or the Yuumi rather, attached target. You're normally going to be the Zeri, who's extremely high range, extremely fast, and he won't be able to necessarily close the gap.
It's difficult. Doran up there towards the top side. He's looking to try and take down this turret. Will be the first of the game if he's able to get there. Chovy looking to defend here towards the bottom side. And that Drake that you were talking about earlier, Chronicler, is still alive. This time T1 are on top of it. They managed to get the control. So this one Ocean Drake should belong to them. We'll have a look at what soul it's going to be as once again, 3 in a row. It's Infernal Soul. And now Owner looking to try and put some threat onto Chovy here. But Chovy has information now. He's just going to be backing underneath his turret, and no one is going to stop him from doing so.
And I think this goes back to the identification of Gen.G knowing where their win conditions are. It's the late game. They don't get the setup they want on the Drake. They push down top turret, push in some extra waves top. Doran actually takes Krugs on the top side of the map. And Gen.G just say, well, I think your comp is pretty strong right now. You have the better setup, so let's just avoid fighting. And yeah, Chovy just sits under this turret defensively, and Faker splits off, so it's not like they lose a ton cross-map here, but still losing a little bit topside, and this Renekton is becoming a bigger and bigger problem here, not in terms of the side lane necessarily, but in terms of what his impact is going to be to set up and defend for the Azir Zeri.
And also then, Gen.G don't need to have the worst Drake in the game, which is the Ocean Drake. Just not wanting to grab that. Three Infernals sounds better, I guess. So they don't really lose out on too much by giving up the play anyway. So still not a very large lead or anything like that. T1 certainly a lot of options even as the game goes later. It's just the Yuumi problem that we've seen so many times in the hands of Ruler and the hands is a very, very scary thing. But on the hunt's going to be popped here as they look for Peanut. Final chapter comes in. Faker's going to get stunned up, but they just brute force the turret down and they'll take that money.
They just wanted to use Crescent Guard to defend here and then push bottom side. I don't think they're going to get the whole turret, but cool idea there potentially from Gen.G if T1 stayed around. Herald is not committed in this mid turret push, so they still have a little bit of power, a little bit of gold to pick up elsewhere on the map, but they're so behind the plays right now in these side lanes. It's not going to get easier for T1 if they can't force 5v5 fights.
Well, T1 might be able to grab themselves another turret as they move surely closer and closer to it. Yep, no one's going to be in the area, so yeah, Chovy managed to get some side lane farm and things like this, and you know, Ruler is tidying up the mid lane, but T1 are now starting to grab some objectives back. They're starting to increase the tempo in their favor this time around, as Doran does have Dominus popped already. Don't know whether he necessarily really needed that, but he had to use it in order to keep himself safe.
And the problem with this for T1 is that they are dropping waves across the map continuously. So, yes, they are getting objectives. They're getting the charge, they got the mid lane turret, they get the bot lane turret. They're getting a lot done, but it doesn't actually net them a gold lead as...
Oh dear, Faker has to use all of his Spirit Rushes. Oh, he does have one left, I believe. Yep, he does. So, he's able to escape. Dashing around, seeing what he can do. So, that is ult down now for the Ahri, as Genji look to go for a bit of a counter push.
Yeah, and the person who's losing the most out of this, like you're saying, Chronicler, is Zeus, and he's playing obviously utility on this Mordekaiser, but the Renekton is getting free farm and getting free experience, and he is going to be a big threat on 2 items.
Another wave.
Yeah.
So many. The previous one was a cannon, so you're not going to feel too bad about that one, but Chovy really stacked a big one in towards the top side, and to me, that's the reason why T1 hasn't actually been very proactive, or rather has been very successful in actually accelerating the gold lead that I think they still need. Because Genji are in a position where you can give up this Infernal Drake and feel completely fine. And that, for a Zera Yumi comp, is you are feeling great. You're having a wonderful time. You know that once your Infinity Edge is done, you possess the currently best AD carry in the LCK by a large margin, combined with the best Yumi. Which, that combo is good even if you're not a good not a good bot lane. Like it's just insane.
Yeah. And look at the build of Chovy. He doesn't have to go crown this game. There's not enough threat onto him. He can go for an early stopwatch here. Shadow Flame build. So much damage here against, yeah, somewhat tanky Mordekaiser, who's going to remove himself from the equation if he wants to do his main job, so you're not worried about him anyways. You're going to be doing big damage to the squishy targets on the back line. Also against a Lulu, who's going to find it very difficult to clear vision as this game goes on as well.
So in this fight, Zeus is going to be really big. Can he find Peanut? Can they get the Drake? Can he find Ruler and make sure that it's a piece of terrain where he actually can get to the Zeri? Because I think in terms of 1v1, Zeus is feeling peachy, but he needs to actually find a key target and make sure that Genji can go for the full 5v5. Because last time that happened, Ruler got what, a quadra kill on Zeri?
Yeah.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah, it was one of the 3, I believe, quadra kills
yes.
That he'd managed to pick up in that game. 12 seconds, though, on this Drake. Going to be the second for either team. And T1 looking to try and start stacking these up. Something that they've adjusted a little bit. Now, as far as being able to get at least one of the first 2. Owner over the wall does find Peanut as Lehens pops out. There's the Assault and Battery onto the Xin Zhao, but the value from this final chapter is just massive. And Peanut, he's going aggressive. Faker is going to get the dash out of Ruler, that he's still able to create a whole bunch of space. Zeus just fighting Doran here. But now, Faker going down extraordinarily low. Ruler now just has the whole team in front of him. Faker's so low, he cannot go back into this fight, and Genji should be able to pick up the first Infernal of the game. Extendo Beam's going to come through, and Faker is going to delay the inevitable. Ruler picks up that kill as well, and the Yumi angle is beginning.
I don't know what you do here as T1. You try to find an angle, it doesn't quite work out. You can smell the desperation. They're hard engaging on a Xin Zhao with ult up and a Yumi on top of him. So obviously it doesn't work out at all. Then Zeus is able to remove what is one of the most powerful threats at this point in the game. That Renekton from the fight. And T1 are like, we can't win the fight anymore. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and Ruler in this fight too, when you watch him, he's walking through T1 like he owns the place. Nobody cares. Nobody's catching him. Nobody's CCing him. Look at where Zeus is. Ulting a Renekton at max range here, which means that Ruler's just walking through, doesn't care. Look at all the damage he's doing here for free. Zeus comes out, that's too late.
Zeus just has no backup because there's no charms being hit. There's no VIQ actually finding someone. And as a result, like your front line's getting killed, Ruler picks up a kill, they get an Infernal Drake, and this is starting to feel like we are on a turning point here for this match and for Gen G, the organization and the players, because this is such a good game state for them. Like, I can't overstate like how good you're feeling if you're Gen G here. You got even a single Inferno already is nuts on this comp.
Oh, it is. This is a very, very scary Gen G right now. Not quite the same situation where we were, you know, writing eulogies at things at this point in time in game number 2. Definitely a better moment as far as that is concerned, and there's no gigantic gold leads or anything like that. We don't have Soul Point on the table just yet, and now T1, they are going for the T1 Baron. Gen G should be able to get into position for this, and there's not a massive amount of damage as, oh my goodness, the Extended Beam's already starting to do a fair bit of work here as Peanut in position to go and try to work out this 50-50 on the smite. Zeus is going to put him in the death realm though as the ult comes through, but immediately turns into a snowman does Ruler. They lock down the Baron, and now T1 are just trying to escape, and they are going to be able to do so. The heist is successful.
Plays like this, Renekton's bottom side, Doran is not there. You have the proximity to Baron, you rush it, you rush over as fast as you can. You have to take risks like this as T1. This is the confidence I wasn't sure we were going to see it. T1 down 2-0. They make the risky call, they pull it off, the heist is successful, as you say, Atlas. That's a lot of extra gold in their pockets, but it doesn't change the overall state of the game.
I don't even think it's a risky call because you have Zeus, you have the ultimate to put Peanut out of the fight, and you know there is no teleport on Renekton. The moment that Doran is spotted, you're down a member as Gen G. T1, I think, just a really good read here, making use of the Mordekaiser pick. Not a 50-50, just a very well executed Baron after a mistake of Gen G. My question is just, and I don't want to be too down, but is this enough?
Exactly.
You need to get as much value as you can outside of this Baron buff.
And the 2 minutes you have Baron now lines up perfectly with this Infernal Drake. But if anybody gets picked, if this Baron falls on his face, doesn't actually get high value, it's so difficult to do with this comp. You know, especially when they're just letting Renekton free farm here on top side. And T1 won't necessarily actually change how this next dragon fight is going to go. So they have to play this both aggressively but conservatively enough. Because Doran, his teleport's coming back up. He's starting to threaten an inhibitor turret right now. Someone's going to have to answer this.
Well, Gen G not going to defend their inner turret here towards the bottom side. Similar situation going on. Of course, T1 going to be able to push a whole bunch faster with both Baron and, of course, 4 members down here. But the defense is pretty good here for Gen G. And once again, the macro game being won out by them because this whole minion wave is just dying to the turret. Zeus does finish his Demonic Embrace and will be able to deal with the last few minions that are going down. But as you can see, it's a 55 CS advantage here for Doran on his big ol' Renekton.
And what's happening here is Zeus is dropping wave. He's playing for his team. But he has been the player that, maybe not in this finals, but overall, the summer split has been his split. He was the one who, up until the couple of rough weeks he had where he tried a little bit too hard in week 7, week 8, he was, together with Owner, the shining light for this team. And now he's dropping wave, he's giving up resources, and that does put more onus on Gumayushi. This is still a Sivir Lulu. Like, this combo, if it wasn't against Zeri Yumi, we'd probably take it over any other combination available in the LCK. So they need to do the heavy lifting. They need to be able to win this next team fight, because if you give up Soul Point to Gen G, if you give up 2 Infernal Drakes, I don't think you come back.
That's my issue here. Gen G get prio here because of that topside wave. 3 go back. Gen G against Baron have minion waves here in the mid lane, or they control it, and then now they've got control over the Drake itself. Rather, not Baron. And how do you get in here as T1? You don't have the choke point controlled.
Yeah, well, there is Quadra stopwatch available here for Gen G, but Infinity Edge was just done for Gumayushi. He's going to make his way over on the hunt at the ready. So T1, I mean, this is a pretty good time to fight if there is ever going to be one. They do still need to find the correct angles to make this one happen. Zeus taking a lot of poke damage, though. He can't do that. He's so pivotal. Like you guys were saying, almost has his teleport available, but I don't know whether it's going to be up in enough time. And Gen G are going to come on over here and look to take down this Drake. Yeah, they're more healthy, but there's a lot of damage here on Gen G. And Doran, one crocodile with a cat is going to be enough to deter T1 from stopping this. That is Infernal Soul Point.
And that's enough because it's Yuumi, it's a Renekton as hold on.
Ooh, On the Hunt is going to come through there. There's the Assault and Battery all the way into the back line, but I don't know whether Ona can fight both Ruler and Chovy. He has to make his way out. Doran's going to be taken down though, and now Zeus is looking for Ruler. The Obliterate comes through, but Gumayushi's dead. Chovy's going to be able to take him down. Ruler is also able to secure the kill onto Zeus there in the end, and Gen.G pick up the Soul Point and get the ensuing fight.
Just such a clean fight here from Gen.G, and it looked scary for just a moment, but you do that much damage to the Mordekaiser, you can't ult anyone. Oh, it's not over yet.
Oh dear, Wind Becomes Lightning does connect. That's a great charm to interrupt the audacious charge. And with the Whimsy, Carrier will be able to keep Faker alive. But still, Gen.G are pushing down the front door. They're going to be able to take that. Oh, okay, never mind. Faker does have a lot of wave clear, and so they will keep this turret alive on a sliver. We'll have to wait a wave before they take that one down because the health bar is not high enough. The mana bar is also struggling a lot here on T1's side. They have to vacate. That means that this turret is definitely dead.
As close as it was, I mean, 3 stopwatches still up here for Gen.G. I mean,
Again, it reeks of, understandably, given how the game has gone, of desperation. It's a hard force here, trying to get onto the Zeri, but this is why Renekton is so high priority. The champion, at this point, on 2-item power spike, with a stopwatch, with Sterex, with a Yuumi. He dies at the end, but who cares? The ensuing fight still gets won. Zeus, unfortunately, not able to actually take down Ruler, and from this point onwards, one fight at any point in the game around the Drake gives Gen.G an Infernal Soul.
And now, to give you guys an update as well, Ruler has completed his Infinity Edge. That item advantage that we were talking about for Gumayushi is no longer there. Zeri moments looking to ensue now. Both of the AD carries do have their flashes available. And look, in all honesty, I still think that Sivir is an extraordinarily high-value late-game damage threat. But I just... With the Yuumi, the cat is always the problem.
There's too much peel and there's too much consistent damage here in this Azir. That's the issue. And Zeus keeps losing half his health bars before he can ult anyone, before he can do anything in these fights. There's too many threats to deal with as T1, whereas your Ahri is binary. She charms. Does she get the pick or no? She doesn't do the same amount of damage as Chovy can do.
Yeah, Faker waiting on the flank there. As you could see, they had control vision. As Gumayushi doesn't have a spell shield now, T1 thinking about the opportunity of an engage. I love this from Jonas Strong, getting that zoom in onto Faker. He's made plays in game states like this in the past, but he's going to have to dig so deep to make this one happen. I'm getting flashbacks to possible angles that he's managed to find. This time around, though, it's going to be so difficult.
There is a point, which we are in right now, where T1 can still win this game with a single good pick. Because there is a stopwatch, yes, which makes it a lot harder, but there is no way for Ruler to get out of a Death Realm, right? There is no Mercurial Scimitar yet, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be picked up next. And from that point on, any play, any big charm hit that you might find, any Vi combo that you're looking for, becomes infinitely less valuable, it becomes way harder to actually collapse or turn into a kill. And as you pointed out, Wolf, even if you throw everything at Ruler and he dies, there's still a Renekton with a Yuumi. There's a
Renekton with a Yuumi. Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is the issue. And with stopwatch still uncracked, I mean, Ruler is very unlikely to die the first time this happens. And as T1, you're missing so much damage. Chovy hits level 16. And right now, Gen.G could just group up and start taking away Baron Vision. I mean, a minute to go before this Drake spawns, and they have control of both objectives right now. T1 backed. And, I mean, what do you do as T1 now? How do you start a fight? Where do you find that pick? Because Ruler isn't overextending. He's not in the Ruler position. He's not vulnerable.
Well, he was pretty close to the Ruler position, but unfortunately for T1, Gen.G just owns so much of this map. And so the Ruler position is actually well and truly within Gen.G territory. GA now completed for Doran. And this is another thing that I was going to talk about as well. You mentioned the stopwatch, so incredibly important. But now, if Gen.G used Ruler's stopwatch in order to win a team fight, he should then be able to afford a GA, which means that once again, he has a lot of control. Is now Peanut taking a fair bit of damage here. Extendo Beam also doing a lot of work in return. T1 still just testing the waters, trying to figure it out. The sustained advantage certainly there. for Gen G, but T1 have control of this Drake pit for now. Of course, Gen G don't need to really worry about one lone Drake, but they would have liked to get an Infernal Soul, as now Peanut rotates over. There's a control ward in the pit now, so he knows what's going on. When Becomes Lightning comes in, this is just a Xin Zhao alone. Now T1 do have a lot of vision control in this area, but there's no objective to fight over, so I'm not entirely sure what Gen G's plan was there.
Very nicely done by T1. They're able to get mid-prio and turn it into a lot of damage. Peanut's forced to use his ultimate, and T1 able to pick themselves up the Drake Rares. Oh, Doran!
Yeah, Salt and Battery. There's the Dominus. I don't know whether it's going to be enough. He does have that GA available, but I don't know whether that is going to save him either. The Everfrost is a little bit too early as Doran flashes. Gets himself out of the way.
Oh, no.
Ruler's
Final
full
chapter.
health. Oh. Yeah, this is very, very dangerous. And now Gen G, they're counting the cooldowns. There aren't a whole lot left available for T1. Now moving over towards this Baron pit.
There's a control ward in the pit, which is so huge. Not anymore.
Yep.
I mean,
Emperor's Divide still available, and that Crescent Guard that we mentioned before is back up and available now. Peanut just managed to get that one again. Inner turret goes down. Teleport's going to be used, and now Gen G, they're going to start off this Baron. No vision available for T1 whatsoever, but they know exactly what's going on. Gen G just move all the way over to Zeus, who has to immediately flash. The follow-up's going to be there for Peanut. And Zeus, yeah, he has no Death Realm and no way of getting out of this one. Gen G, they find their target and they strike. And now, T1 inside this Baron pit. Can they get a pick back themselves as the Boomerang Blade? Not going to find anything. And Gen G get back to work.
It's just so hard without a tank here. You don't have a front line in this comp anymore as T1. You can't win this. Timber will just get focused down. You're hoping for a miracle right now.
This is very dangerous. Ona, he's had a great smite button in the past. There's the flash from Ruler. T1 getting a lot of value here. The Boomerang Blade doing a lot of work to this area. Now Faker looks for his opportunity. Ruler, he's going to get hit by the jump, but Faker had to go golden too early, and Peanut will secure the Baron. Now Gumayushi is just trying to be huge in this fight, but I just don't think it's going to be enough. He is a one-man army, but it's not quite large enough, and Ruler is exactly the same thing. There's your Zeri angle, and Carrier is running the wrong direction. It's a double kill in the end for the Gen G 80 carry, and they are in so much control. I think this might be Gen G now walking up for the very first time in summer to pick up their very first title for Ruler, for Lehens, for Doran, and for Chovy.
They're going to move up. They're going to try Atlas, and Gen G, it might not have happened for them before. Ruler about to pick up his first LCK trophy.
Getting a world trophy so many years ago. Zeus is desperately trying to hold on. He does go golden himself, but look at these Nexus turrets, and for the first time, Gen G will crack a third Nexus. And Ruler finally gets his domestic title. Chovy finally showing all of those who doubted him that he can actually manage to win these best of fives. What a huge moment for Gen G.
So many close calls, so many failures to get that third Nexus across this old Griffin squad that's reunited on a super team. Gen G makes it happen here. And it's been the story of Gen G in the past. Can they close out these series? Will they choke? Will they be able to come through? And when they win it, win in one of the most one-sided LCK finals we have seen in a while. Extremely dominant performance from this squad.
And there is so much to unpack. Gen G finally beating the team that has beaten them so many times. Griffin getting a win, helmed by Score, who got his first win against them. It's too good.
It is. Oh. So much of this, and you can see the entire bottom lane. Ruler and Lehens, both of them in tears.
It's one of those moments.
They've been trying for so many years.
It's one of those moments where the players on the stage just tell the whole story. You know, there's not even much to add or to say here. Even those hoping for a T1 victory tonight can't help but smile when they see Peanut once again leading another LCK team to a title, but it's the first one of all of his teammates.
Ruler and Lehens, they didn't go to Asia Games. They wanted to focus on their synergy. They wanted to win a trophy. Finally! And in a way like this.
There's so much of this, and their coach Score is not with them right now, but was, of course, celebrating earlier. He was the one that denied it from Trophy in 2018. It was such an amazing 5-game final that time around. This time, they joined forces. It's 3-0 in the end, but you can see how much this means for Ruler.
And the thing is, it's just what we expected in terms of a dominant performance from Gen G, and they met expectations. The prophecy came true. This team was so clean all regular season. They broke the records for game differential. They come into this final confident, and it shows. And Toby lifts a trophy here in the LCK for the first time to an eruption from the crowd. Oh, it's just so beautiful to watch.
Peanut says, I've already had 3. You guys go first. And yeah, when Ruler picks it up, this guy won Worlds in an AD carry in an Arden meta. And to see him come back like this with such a split, incredible.
And that was my very first year in the LCK. It has been my entire time as an LCK commentator that it's taken for Ruler to lift his first domestic trophy. Just an incredible performance from the man after such an amazing season. Breaking that record for game score.
It's just everything came together. This team was already strong in the bottom meta starting off the season, but then even 12-14 played to Doran's strengths. Peanut changed the meta in terms of how he played. The Poppy pick that was banned against him in every single playoff game he played. Every single game. He never got to play it. And regardless, he wins the title with his team again. It's just everything coming together all at once for the squad. They're wearing their championship shirts for the first time. After so many finals, they've watched the enemy team wear their championship shirts on the stage. They do the winner interview, not this time. And the 6th time Toby stands on the stage with a trophy, not going backstage after a third Nexus fall. Yeah.
And one of my favorite parts all comes together like this. Words fill me. Yeah. This is the whole team that gets it done. Everyone had their moments in the series.
You have to remember this is after 18 runner-ups across this entire team. They have sat across from the champions so many times.
Thank you very much, guys. This is Jason for the Summer Split Champions Winner interview. This is our Summer Split champion, Gen G.
우승을 차지한 젠지
Thank you very
선수들과
much. And let's hear from
간단히
our
인터뷰 나눠보도록
champion.
하겠습니다. 그리고 제 앞에 모니터
The
좀
Gen G
켜주세요.
players.
모니터 안 들어옵니다. 네. 자, 그러면
Congratulations, guys. Doran,
네. 야,
congrats.
처음이죠 이런 인터뷰. 그렇다면 처음이죠.
First ever winner interview
처음입니다.
at finals,
지금
right? Absolutely.
제가 처음으로 도란과 많은 얘기 나눠봤습니다만
This is my
처음으로
first
도란에게
time,
이런 질문을
having
드리겠습니다. 우승
the
소감이
finals
어떠십니까?
MVP. I mean, finals
제가
interview with Doran. How do
제
you
모든 게
feel
다
to
아름다워
finally
보이고요.
win the LCK title?
그리고
Everything looks so beautiful,
지금
you know?
그냥 너무 좋습니다.
I'm just so happy.
낙상. 예. 그것도 3대 0인데.
And it was a 3-0 victory.
내가 드디어 우승 인터뷰 한번 하겠구나.
When was the moment that you were feeling that you're going to win this title?
일단 방심을 한 번도 한 적 없고요.
I never let my guards down, to be honest, you know?
한타를 계속 이기면서
We kept
분위기
winning
넘어왔을 때
team fights in game 3 and
네,
we were having the
맹성스케일을
big
하면서
momentum.
그렇게
And on my
생각했습니다.
way
아,
to
그렇군요.
the enemy
그리고,
base and the
이거
Nexus, I was
약속한
pretty
거
sure that
있잖아요.
I'm going to win the LCK trophy.
근데
Is that you're going to sing on stage though when you win the championship?
어떻게 약속을 했는데?
야, 너무 죄송한데 이게
I'm
지금
so sorry,
노래 부를 각이
but
안 나와가지고
This is not the right situation to sing. I don't see the angle.
잘만 나오구만. 이거 노래 딱 각인데 아무래도
I see it,
결정하시면
though.
됩니다. 저희가 전 따르도록 할게요. 예.
네,
So-
그냥
So
다른
we're
좋은
gonna do it?
콘텐츠로
I will come back with better contents in the future. I'm so sorry, guys. No singing
멋진
on stage
경기를
today.
보여주시는 게 최고의 선물입니다. 네, 다시 한번 축하드리고요. 다음 이제 피넛입니다. 피넛 우승 축하드립니다.
Now let's invite Peanut. for the
몇 번째
LCK
우승이죠?
champion
저
interview.
네 번째 우승인 것 같습니다.
This is my first
어느 팀
title,
어느
by
팀
the
어느
way.
팀 어느 팀 기억나요?
Which teams were you on? I remember every
그런데
single four
솔직히
teams.
2018년 스프링 이후가 한 4년 5년 만이거든요.
It's been 4 years
사실
though, you know,
지금은 이제
since
완전 팀에
2018
뭐
spring
맞춰이
split,
됐고
and now
선배로
you are
후배들
the
챙겨줄
oldest
입장이 돼서
member of
우승하니까
Gen G, you know,
기분이
leading the
어떻습니까?
entire team.
제가
How do you
막내일
feel?
때 형들이 많이
You know,
이끌어줬던
yeah, I was like the youngest when I
생각나고
used to win
많이 이끌어줘서
LCK,
제가
and
그때 당시에
I was
우승을
led
계속 할수
by
있었던
other
거고
older
지금 와서
players,
제가
and they were the ones that
형들이
helped
저한테
me
해줬던
so much to
것만큼
win the
저희
title. So
팀원들한테 해주려고
I just
노력하고
wanted
있고
to
형들
do
덕분에
as
오늘
good
이렇게
as
좋은
you know
모습
they did
보여줄
for
수
me in
있었던
the
것 같아요.
past.
예.
And
오늘
I was
사실
able to
내년
do a
선수들이
great job as the
LCK
oldest
무관을 막
member
탈출했거든요.
of the team
본인만
based
경험이
on that
많은데 오늘 무슨
experience.
얘기를 형으로서
But you weren't the
얘기를
only
많이
one
들었는데
of Gen G that had
후배들이
any
어떤 얘기를
LCK
해주면서
title. So
결승에
what
임하게
kind of
됐습니까?
advice did you give to the Gen G players?
그냥 단순히 그냥 동등한 입장에서
I was
저희가
like,
스프링
you know,
결승 지고 나서
After losing the
각자
spring
얘기를
finals,
나눴는데 꼭
we had
기회
a
다시
lot of
만들고,
communications, you know,
두번
and
다시
I was
후회할
like,
경기 하지
let's
말자고
make this opportunity
얘기했는데
happen
오늘
one more
그러지
time, and
않아가지고
let's
그
never
약속
miss
지킨 것
that,
같아서
you know.
네, 그냥
And I'm so
모든
happy
팀원들
that we
잘해준 것
made it
같아요.
together,
알겠습니다.
and I think
다시 한번
all
축하드리고요.
5 members did a great
이어서
job.
와.
Now,
스트레이트로 갔으면 6번째 우승 소감 인터뷰를 제가
This could have been
여쭤봐야
your
돼.
sixth
이 선수인데 이제 처음으로
LCK
역시
title
우승
interview,
소감을
but
여쭙는
I can't.
시간이
But this
바로
is actually
오늘이군요.
first time
초비와
asking
인터뷰
Toby
나눠보도록
how